Alright guys, so let us go ahead and we're gonna talk about the cluster topic now. And where were we in last class? We had gone for Vmotion and so to host, move to cluster. Okay, so what we did was we had done the moving of the host, which is hypervisor host EXI2. It used to be there under NYDC data center, but we moved it to the TORDC data center, and there under TORDC or Toronto data center, suppose. So we created a cluster in last class. Well, whichever happened a week before.
IP has left the meeting.
Oh, okay. We created that Tor cluster and to introduce some advanced features of HA, DRS, and FT fault tolerance, right? So distributed resource scheduler, DRS, HA, high availability. So we have created a cluster, and then we moved the two hypervisors to this Tor cluster, right? So we moved this hypervisor to the Tor cluster, and now we're going to continue from there. So this means that our hypervisor is supposed to be under the cluster right now, and if that is done, we're going to move ahead because we did it last time and requested the screenshots as well. So for that, so I'm just going to go back to my lab here, and then I'm just going to press OK here. So it was unsuspended, so it's going to kick me out. So I'm just going to refresh this, and then click Advanced. Okay, let's mute everyone. Let's mute. Okay. Okay, guys. So although that was a nice music, but let's carry on with the class. So we're going to click the. I'm just gonna click the proceed button here, and then I'll just go ahead. Wait. So it seems like it's been ages since the last class. So yeah, it looks so new, right? Administrator at vsphere.local. I'm just going to log in from that. Small ABC, capital ABC, shift 1, 2, 3, and without shift 1, 2, 3. So we're going to log into that Vcenter, and we need to go through all the advanced features of high availability, distributed resource scheduler, DRS, and then fault tolerance, and well, vSAN would be a demo from my side, and then ongoing with backup and other features. So let's get going, and I'm just logged in now. We can go faster if you are following with me, and there are not a lot of stopping there, so we could cover more as well because it has to be job-oriented course, right? So here, TORDC, which is data center. Under that we have a cluster, and the cluster offers grouping of hosts or hypervisors, and it offers disaster recovery and high availability features to the host. The cluster offers disaster recovery and high availability features to the hosts. So this is so the two hosts are under the cluster, and you can see that the virtual machines are not like showing which host they are under, but if you go to the virtual machine itself and click that and go to the summary of virtual machine, summary view of that, or summary tab of that, then you can know that it's here. This virtual machine belongs to this host, that virtual machine belongs to that host. So you can click any virtual machine and click the summary. So now, what are the features that are provided by the cluster? So I'll just type them out first, and then we're going to test them as well. So in cluster, in VMware Vsphere cluster, we have the some of the features as well. In clusters, some of the advanced features are, because there are many smaller features as well, I'm just mentioning for now the advanced ones, or the main ones that you're going to be asked in the exam as well as in the interview. So there is HA, or high availability, and then there is DRS, which is distributed resource scheduler, and then there is FT, which is fault tolerance, and well, there's EVC, enhanced vMotion compatibility. So enhanced vMotion compatibility. So it goes on and on. Then there's affinity rules. So we're going to be obviously covering all those rules, and then there are well, then we can go ahead with backup, which is not a cluster feature. But I'll be showing more cluster features there, especially the vSAN would be, vSAN can be done only on computers with 32 GB RAM. So I'll be showing a demo for that, and you can just see that and answer the questions in the exam, but mainly you would learn that for the job environment. Okay guys, so let's mute our mics. Okay, so these are the features that we're going to be covering, but let's go for these two main ones, or the most critical ones, about the high availability feature. So if we want to talk more about that, so it gets triggered when there is a loss of a host, hypervisor host, right? So hypervisor. Okay, so it gets triggered when there's a loss of a host. What happens is that the host goes down, the host shuts down, crashes, crashes, right? So the virtual machines, the VMs on top of this host gets disconnected. So this means that end user downtime, that's what you're seeing here. So they get disconnected. These disconnected VMs are restarted on other hosts, right? Disconnected VMs are restarted. And how long end users are disconnected, or what is the downtime? Your boss will ask that, hey, okay, what's the downtime? So downtime is, and it's not downtown, it's downtime. So one student was asking me, so what is the downtown here for the end users? So I was saying it's Toronto downtown. Okay, no. So it's downtime. So it's these disconnected VMs are restarted on other hosts, and the end user downtime depends. So, well, that's a new spec. Depends on how long did the VMs took to fully restart and power on. Right? So that's the downtime. We're gonna check there. Hello, sir. Okay. The doors are open, aren't they? Well, access is open. click again the link. So did anyone get any problem with the access of this, access to the class? So on WhatsApp I'm getting that. Okay, I'll just put that link again. I guess previous link, copy meeting link, and okay, so what we were talking about is oh.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay, you got it. So so let's come here to, yeah, we were talking about that the end user downtime depends on how long did the VMs took to fully restart and power on. So now if we explain that in English, so it means that I'm just gonna get the diagram here, and in English it just means that in easy words, or in words that are understandable. Your virtual machine is here, and on E6i host, it's loaded on the memory, and its virtual disk is actually on these data stores, which are LAN-based data stores, right? So the RAM is being used for, so the virtual machine runs on RAM, right? So the virtual machine is running on RAM with memory contents there. So what happens is, as soon as the disaster strikes, then the virtual machine is, first of all, so the whole host has gone down for some reason, for some hardware reasons. Now the host is down. Suppose there were 20 virtual machines there, 15, 20, 12, 10, whatever. So those all virtual machines will be shut down. But remember that their virtual disks are not on the local physical disk based data store. Their virtual disks are on LAN based data stores. On those LANs are actually connected to the SAN. So those ones are also connected through SAN, or they're coming from SAN, and they will be connected to the other hypervisors as well. So as soon as the host goes down, the virtual machines files are all here on the data store, LAN based data store, and that LAN is LAN 0, 1, 2 are connected to E6i2 as well. Or suppose you had a big environment there, and you have multiple hosts there, E6i3, E6i4, E6i5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they all are connected to LAN 0, LAN 1, LAN 2, right? So the virtual machines files were always here on the LAN based data store. This means that if the host goes down, it can be restarted from the LAN based data store on any of the other hosts as well, right? So the end users will be effectively disconnected. This means that, oh, are we talking about here HA? Doesn't HA means high availability? And doesn't high availability means that even if disaster strikes, it's just highly available. So it's just available even if the disaster strikes. That's what it's supposed to mean. But it's not what I can say true high availability. The machine goes down, the hardware goes down, and the virtual machines on top of that will effectively be disconnected. End users will be disconnected. So this means that it's not highly available. There is a downtime there, but the downtime just lasts as long as it takes for the virtual machines to get restarted on the RAM of another host. So that much time they are taking. So suppose it's a big machine, right? So it's big machine means it has a messy application like SQL Server, or some other application that is big, a third-party application, hospital application, insurance company application that is really big and takes a lot of RAM and CPU. So in that case, it might take a little longer time to start all the services fully for the end users to connect. But the main thing is that the machines are simply restarted on other hypervisors. And not only that, they are restarted on the other hypervisors. In our case, we just have two, right? But we're talking about medium to large size companies where there are maybe 20, 30, 100, even 1000 hypervisors there. So virtual machines will get restarted on any of those hypervisors there, right? Any of those hypervisors. So this is how high availability works, that there is a downtime. So if in the final quiz, if I ask you that, hey, high availability is, this means zero data loss. So that's wrong, right? There will be a zero downtime. So that will be wrong. There is a downtime there in Vsphere high availability, VMware Vsphere availability, but that downtime is not like hours long. If the virtual machine can restart, yes, it will just restart on another hypervisor. If the virtual machine also itself got corrupted, that's another thing. That then you won't. Well, you have to then fix that or troubleshoot that virtual machine as well. Although the underlying hardware crashed, but virtual machine should be okay. It just got shut down once. So if it's okay, then it will just restart on the other one. That's the downtime that the users have to face. Once it's fully restarted, just tell them to, hey, connect again. And so if that is high availability, then where is the true high availability? Is there any true high availability in VMware? So yes, there is. So when it comes to HA, so I'll just put it again here as well in the diagram so I could compare it with others, that if host crashes, then virtual VMs are, make sure that you remember the word restarted. Many students, when asked later that if the host goes down, what happens to the virtual machines, and they say VMs are vmotioned to the other hypervisor. So that's wrong. They are restarted. There's a big difference between restart and vmotion. They are not migrated. They are not moved. They are restarted. So there's a big difference. Migration means that vmotion means, which you did as well in previous class. So it is that the virtual machine is powered on and you are just you've just migrated it to the other hypervisor, right? So restarted means it got disconnected. It restarted, all end user disconnected, and then it restarted on the other hypervisor. So very big difference here, that you must not say that it was vmotioned. You must just mention that it was restarted in high availability, right? So is there, then the question arises, then is there true high availability? Yes, there is true high availability offered by VMware as well, and that is called FT. So it is not called high availability, it's called fault tolerance. It tolerate the fault. Fault means, again, obviously the the fault, the host crashes. Now here it gets triggered. It gets triggered when there is host crash, host or VM crash, right? VM crash. But what happens? So the there is active VM and passive VM, right? Passive standby. And I hope you all know that what that means. So standby VM, it just keeps on copying everything from active VM. So there is active VM and passive standby VM. And if the active VM based host is down, then passive, in case of crash, passive VM on other host becomes active. So we all know the story, becomes active, right? So that's where we can say true high availability. There is no downtime in this case. Okay, my kids are fighting and they came to my room. Shoot. Okay, go. Okay, so here there is no downtime here, and it's too quiet. Am I talking to my laptop or what? Okay, so yeah, let's keep going. So there is no downtime. So when they ask in the interview, suppose you done the cloud certifications there, and you walk into the interview and they start asking you surprisingly VMware questions. So that happened to some of my students. So you better be ready if you are a cloud expert, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, you've done all those certifications, then you must do VMware. And so whenever you're going for the job, let me know. I'll give you the interview questions as well. So you should be ready for, you should not be surprised. So there's no downtime in fault tolerance, right? So difference between HA and fault tolerance is that HA gets triggered when host crashes and it restarts the machine. Fault tolerance, host or virtual machine crashes if it's the active one. So its virtual machine's partner is already waiting on the other side, on the other host. If the active host crashes, then the partner becomes passive becomes, or standby becomes the active one, right? So that's the difference. There are no virtual machine partners in HA, or you can create it later. But if it's only HA and one virtual machine, you have to restart. If it's fault tolerance, active passive, then it will just simply fail over, and that happens in seconds. So we're good. We don't have to really worry about that. There will be no downtime in fault tolerance, but there will be a downtime in HA. Since we're going to talk about DRS as well, which is Distributed Resource Scheduler, we must know at least the difference between these three, but there will be others that I will be showing you. But they are all for in case of disaster, in case of downtime. What do you do? So DRS, or Distributed Resource Scheduler, So Distributed Resource Scheduler, what does it do? It only gets triggered. It gets triggered when there is degradation of performance. That's it. So if there's a crash, DRS cannot help you. If there is a crash, FT and HA can help you, right? Okay, Sandeep says, why do we need HA, sir? Isn't FT enough? Well, HA is for host crash. FT basically is for virtual machine crash, basically. But any kind of crash happens to virtual machine, then it just fails over. HA is specifically for host crash in case somebody did not configure FT. HA is for the whole environment. Once you configure HA, suppose you have 32 hosts there, or 64 hosts. We just have 2 hosts, right? Hypervisors. 64 hypervisors you can have here in a cluster. So HA is available for every host, while FT you can create for critical machines only. You cannot create a fault tolerance, configure fault tolerance for every virtual machine. If you do that, you're gonna run out of bandwidth, because it active to passive, there's a lot of data gets copied there. So this is for virtual machine. Basically, I would just mention here VM level, but whatever kind of crash happens that makes the communication between active and passive VM unavailable, so passive becomes active without any data loss. So HA is for a different purpose. It's for host level. So if I go for host level, so and the other one is VM level, right? So they are for different situations, different circumstances, right? Okay, DRS, Distributed Resource Scheduler, we were talking about that. So distributed, it gets triggered when there is a degradation of performance. So and what does it do? So DRS, simply Vmotions a VM to a better performing host, right? So it simply Vmotions a VM to a better performing host. That's what it does. So this means that your virtual machine is on E6i1, and E6i1 is running out of RAM and CPU because there are other machines and it's peak time. But DRS automatically analyzes, oh, E6i2, E6i3, or E6i4 has, any one of them has a lot of RAM and CPU available. Okay, let me just migrate automatically your virtual machine from a less performing host to a best performing host. So DRS automatically does that for you. Now this means that DRS can offer such level of automation that they might even not need you, and they might fire you. Okay, so yeah, DRS is so automated, but you can use it when you are busy resolving some other tickets, some other critical tasks, and then you want to have some kind of relief there, that if the virtual machine is on a host and it's not performing well, and end users are about to start complaining that, hey, I cannot open my file, I cannot close my file, it's so slow. So that DRS will automatically vmotion the virtual machine to a very good performing host, and all the end users will start doing their tasks normally, right? So but if you put it on ultimate, permanently on automation, then obviously then they don't need you. So so the thing is that I was in Scotiabank before as a contractor. So there, our senior VMware administrator, he did not turn on this DRS feature, and he had some relations with, I think, the CEO, or I don't know, president of the bank or someone up there. So we used to tell him, hey, just enable DRS, it will make our life easier. Then he would say on our faces, hey, they will just kick me out if I enable any automation here. So I don't want to do that. I just want to manually, take care of everything. So, but don't say that in the interview, or don't say that in the job. Not everyone has that kind of relations with top management. Anyway, so if disaster strikes, DRS can't do anything. DRS needs a host to be working to vmotion the machine away from it. If the host is crashed, its DRS is of no use. Either FT, if you've configured that, or HA will help. HA will restart your machine, or FT will actually fail over. If it's a critical machine, you configure FT. Otherwise, if it's non-critical machine, you don't configure FT, because FT is, or fault tolerance is, this machine is there and its partner machine is there. Suppose there are 20 machines here. Not every machine is critical, right? So this is active and this is passive. Now there are 20 machines on E6A1 and 20 machines on, if you create FT, no, I'm going to create fault tolerance for every machine. For me, every machine is active, critical. So what happens is, it takes so much bandwidth, right, that your whole network will be slow, right? So we only do FT for critical machines. And active passive, what happens? Passive actually copies everything synchronously. Whatever end users are connecting here, right? So whatever changes and modifications they're doing, that is being at once copied to the passive machine across the LAN. So that's why you can't enable FT on every virtual machine, right? So that's the problem with that. Well, we understand that, okay, that's HA, that's FT. When do we use HA? It's for host level. Host goes down, machine gets restarted. At least we don't have outage of virtual machine or the critical application on top of that. We don't have the outage for that for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. It's just connected, right? It's okay. Like it's gonna restart. And fault tolerance for just the critical machine, so it will just fail over right away in seconds, milliseconds even. Okay, and DRS, it just moves, vmotions the machine, virtual machine, from poorer performing host to good performing host in terms of CPU and RAM, right? So when in final quiz, if I ask that DRS is going to vmotion the machine as soon as there's the host crashes, so that will be a wrong question. DRS cannot do anything if the host crashes, right? So HA has full HA has no downtime, so that's also wrong. HA has a downtime. FT has a downtime, that's also wrong. FT does not have a downtime. Okay, so we're kind of clear here that okay, that's the difference, and which one triggers at what time, at what circumstance. So let's go ahead and try to explore the HA and DRS features, right? So these two work together. They work together, and obviously in an interview, you might face some questions about HA and DRS. How do they work? What are the other features there? So I'm going to be talking about those features from time to time here. So I'll just put that diagram there on your OneNote, so you could follow that. So okay, all right or all wrong? All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and what's our environment saying right now? It's saying let's do something. Okay, so now we're in the Tor cluster, and in the last class we did that, the class that happened. So the Tor cluster, once we're there, so the main view, best view would be if you click the Tor cluster and click the summary here. In that summary, normally if there's any issue, obviously you will get a lot of errors showing here, right? So right now there's no errors in my case at least, so it's good. Sometimes there are warnings that you can just simply ignore. So that, but depends on when you read the warning, then we can decide that, hey, is that to be ignored or not, right? So here, Tor cluster summary, and then this is just a summary of that. But I'm just gonna go to the configure area. This is the main area where you will be spending most of the time now, and that is that configure for Tor cluster. So click Tor cluster, then configure, and then Vsphere Drs and Vsphere availability. So these are the two that we were talking about just now. So Drs is going to only get triggered if there is a low performing host there, and the virtual machine needs to be vMotioned. And availability we talked about, that is going to get triggered when the host goes down actually. So Vsphere availability, let's click that. Once we click the Vsphere availability, then there is Vsphere HA, or high availability is turned off, and proactive HA. So proactive, that's good. Like disaster is about to strike, and you can do something about it with the help of the events, the alerts, the alarms from the monitoring application that come. Maybe some of the alerts are leading you to decide that, hey, the host is about to crash, or a host is about to be performing really bad. So you could just vMotion the machine even before the actual disaster strikes. So that's a really cool feature as well. We're going to talk about that now. So, but let's go to the edit button here, this one, and click that. Once you click the edit button, so this window opens, and there is a turn on Vsphere HA, and then there is a turn on proactive HA. So Vsphere availability is comprised of Vsphere HA and proactive HA. We talked about HA already. It gets triggered when the host goes down. It restarts the machine. So to enable proactive HA, you must also enable DRS, distributed source scheduler. That simply vMotions the machine powered on the powered on host if the host is performing low. I'm just repeating those purposes of the main objectives of DRS and HA again and again, so you would have no confusion later. So let's just turn on this, turn on Vsphere HA. Okay, so Paul says come again. From where should I come again? I hope, Paul, you're here. So I'm gonna click Tor cluster, and then click configure, and then click configure, and then click Vsphere availability, and then edit. So click configure, Vsphere availability, and click edit, and then turn on Vsphere HA. So now this is turn on Vsphere HA, and so if you've done that, now what we're doing is, guys, first of all, this turn on Vsphere HA, you see host failure here, and it says what to do with if host failure occurs. So you already know that's its job. It's going to restart the VM, and details is restart VMs using VM restart priority ordering. Yes, if any, we will be turning on DRS as well. First, I'm just explaining this area. Then we're going to go back to this one. I'm going to enable that. Then we're going to come back here, and we're going to turn on proactive HA as well. Here, host failure, restart VMs. This is what we were talking about, and proactive HA, host isolation, data store with permanent device loss, data store with all paths down, and guest not hard beating. So these are all disabled right now, and so yeah, we're going to be checking that should we keep it disabled or should we enable some of them, and what are the repercussions of that, right? So let's go to now let's just turn on this proactive HA as well, and it is not turning on as it says DRS is needed. So let's go to DRS here, and if everyone's on DRS, you can just click on turn on Vsphere Drs. So that's it. We're not going to discuss right now what are those options, because first we're discussing the availability options. Then I'm going to come back to DRS and we're going to discuss those options as well, right? So if you have turned on DRS, the only reason is because we need to enable. Again, go back to vSphere availability and we need to enable turn on proactive HA as well. So let's click turn on proactive HA. So what was the purpose of this? Well, you can see a lot of features here now, and each feature you have to be very carefully configuring in the production environment, or when the interviewer asks you why would you go for failures and responses and proactive HA, and especially admission control. So anyway, if you have enabled that, so we have to go through the features. If suppose I uncheck that, so normally these features are grayed out, but if you check that, then normally DRS has to be open and this has to be open for these features to be configurable. So let's go to the failures and responses here, and in the failures and responses you can see that you can configure how vSphere HA responds to the failure conditions on this cluster, right? The following failure conditions are supported: host isolation, host failure, so failure of host, host isolation, VM component protection, data store with PDL and APD, VM and application. So what is PDL? Permanent device loss, and APD all paths down. What are those? So I'm just going to be explaining that. But the first thing is, you can see host failure response. If your host crashes, what will you do? So there's an arrow here, right? You go ahead and click that arrow, this one, right? And once you click the arrow, so there's that disabled and there is a restart VM. So obviously we would never put it on disabled, because we want the VMs to restart if the host crashes, so it is okay. But you can see that default VM restart priority. Now here we see medium. No, we want with high priority, or if you have this host with very critical machines, you can go for highest, but we can go for high priority here when the host, this any host in this cluster, we have just two, right? Suppose you have 64 hosts there, that's the maximum you can go. So any host crashes, please restart our VMs with high priority. So change the medium to high, right? And then there is a resource allocated here, VM dependency restart condition. So after the condition has been met, vSphere HA will proceed with the next VM restart priority. So that is just saying that you have options there as well. Either virtual machine is powered on, guests heartbeats detected, app heartbeats detected. So do you want to restart VM with some priority, or do you want all the VMs to be restarted in whether they're powered on, whether their heartbeats are detected? Now we haven't talked about heartbeats yet. This comes when we talked about VM monitoring here. So we're going to stick to the default option here. Do you want to have a delay? Suppose there are 20 virtual machines to restart, right? So do you want to have some kind of delay here, additional delay, or VM dependency restart condition timeout? So it just says that if one of the VM depends on, it has some dependencies there, right? So do you want to wait for that VM for certain seconds there? Suppose it's waiting for domain controller. Suppose there are two machines. One is domain controller, one is another server, file server that is joined to the domain. So normally it's best practice to let the domain controller start first, and then the file server should start second, right? So it has some default options there which you can also mess with or change with, but the main thing is that It's gonna let each virtual machine 600 wait for 600 seconds, and then it will start all the machines. Well, suppose there are 20 machines or 30 machines there. And then there is response for host isolation. So if you click that, there is shutdown and restart VMs and power off and restart VMs. So what is the purpose of host isolation? I'm just gonna make it full screen here so you could see this. Okay, drag it up. So it says response for host isolation, and there are options here. So anyone knows what's the difference between shutdown and power off? Anyone knows what's the difference between shutdown and power off? Aren't they the same? Why they are both written there? I just wanted to have a sip of water. That's why I asked that. Okay, no, that was a genuine question. Come on. Okay, so thank you for the answer. That was really interesting answer. Actually, nobody answered anything. So yeah, there you go. So how to say shutdown from OS, power off from power BU. Power BU. Okay. And okay, Shabadan says in shutdown we still can access the machine, and in power off we cannot. Button. Okay, BU button. Okay, power button. Anthony says shutdown lets the program stop gracefully. There you go. There you go. And Shabina says question mark, question mark, question mark. Okay, that's another good answer. I really like this answer. Okay, so but Anthony has said it. So oh, okay. That was for Shahab. What did Shahab say? In shutdown, we still can access the machine. Oh, okay. So yes, Shahab, definitely three question marks is a good answer. So no, Anthony said it, guys. So shutdown lets the program stop gracefully. So when you're shutting down the machine, it waits for the background services to stop one by one, and then it shuts down the full machine. Power off, it doesn't care about the services to stop slowly. It just simply powers off. That's it. In power off is like you have pulled off the cables, the power cable, right? So it doesn't care about the background services to stop gracefully. So that's the answer. Thank you, Anthony, for that. Okay, but others also tried, and then I knew that okay, I'm not talking to my laptop, and it's too quiet, right? So that's why. So anyway, so guys, here, but what is host isolation anyway? So for that, I'm just gonna quickly create another diagram. So here, if you have a lot of hosts, and obviously when you join a company, medium to large size company, so you will have a lot of hosts there. So there's either Hyper-V hosts or VMware. Most probably, you will be seeing VMware hosts there. So this is the Vcenter here, and then I don't know why I always type Vcenter. So Vcenter here, and these are the hosts, right? So E6i host, right? So I'll just copy that on all. So what happens is that as soon as the hosts are added to the cluster, right? We added 2 hosts to the cluster. While in the company you could have 20, 30, 40 hosts there, you will add all of them in the cluster, right? So what happens is that one of the hosts becomes master, and that is done with internal polling among the hosts. That one becomes master, and that's their own algorithm set up by, because they're all configured the same way, so they just through some certain internal algorithm they go for selecting a master, and all other are slave hosts, right? So what is the difference, and why master slave combination is there? So why do they do that? Because the slave, master host. The slave hosts need to send I'm alive packets, right, to the master host every second, right? So every slave host is saying I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. When master host is in context, vCenter is in connection with whoever is the master host, right? So from the master host, vCenter gets in its log files that, oh, okay, so everything is fine, and every host, slave host, is reporting to the master host that they're fine, right? So that is one thing, that vCenter is connected with the master host, and slave hosts are all there. Now there are two circumstances or situations that we and Vsphere are talking about. Suppose you lost connectivity from master or from vCenter. So vCenter, senator. Seriously, what's wrong with me? vCenter to any host. The connectivity is frozen, right? So what do you do in that case? What is your troubleshooting step? Would you, so your connection to the host number 3 is frozen. You click in the vCenter, it doesn't really connect. Okay, so there's a Olufemi is saying the master is set by administrator. No, it's automatic. Olufemi, it is automatic. It's internal algorithm defined by VMware, and they automatically set as soon as you add all the hypervisors to the cluster at once. One is master and others are slave. It just happens. The polling happens in seconds, and capiche, one is master, others are all hosts. They have to report. They have to put someone as master. What is the criteria of that? Why? I also have to check that. I also dug down once I read that, and there was a complicated mathematics involved in algorithm. Oh, that's how they select the master. So yeah, the question is, suppose you lost connectivity from vCenter to any host, to one host, any one host, sorry. Suppose. So what would you shut down that host? Yes or no? Yes, no. If yes, why? If no, why? Okay, so Olufemi says, is there a way to check with which is master? Oh, yes. When we come back to cluster, I'll show you. Yeah, Olufemi, we're going to come back to that. So I'll remember your question. So there's a question that I have also posted here, that if you, suppose you lost connectivity from vCenter to any host, so would you shut down that host? So suppose you lost connectivity from vCenter to this host. You click on the vCenter and everything is frozen within the vCenter. To control, you want to control anything here, you want to make changes anything to this host number 3, but everything is frozen. How do you really, what do you do? Would you go to the data center physically, and would you shut down this host because remotely you cannot configure it, or yes or no, or you would check for something? So Himan says no. Why not? What's the reason for yes? What's the reason for no? Mother says no. So what precautions would you want to take? Why no? Any reason for no, I would not shut down this host? Because if it's frozen connection, VMs running inside those. Yes, okay, there you go. So exactly what happens is that you have a different network card for connectivity between the host to the vCenter, and you have a different network card for connectivity of virtual machines to the rest of the end user. So suppose, well, normally you would have in environment physical servers that would have 3 or 4 network cards here, right? That's samosa shaped thing is that network card here. So normally you dedicate one type of network card or one network card here for just connectivity from ESXi host to vCenter, but the rest is connected. Rest of the network cards are actually connected to a physical switch that actually gets the end users connect to it. So if your connection from vCenter to ESXi host is frozen, that doesn't mean that all the end users are also disconnected from their virtual machine. Suppose this is a file server. Critical files are here, right? This is a web server. Maybe intranet is being offered. And this is a print server. So lots of print jobs are going on. So that's all very critical, productive jobs and tasks going on. You can't just shut down that host without confirming. So suppose your connection is actually during peak hours, you saw that, oh, I cannot do anything from my vCenter to this host. I want to change, make some changes, and it's frozen. Connection is frozen. It's all grayed out. So, but then you also see that maybe you understand that FS1, file server 1 is on this host. So you try to ping that machine, right? If you are still able to ping while the connection is frozen, so this means that from the other network card, it is going there. This means that machine is up. This means the host is actually not frozen, only the connection has some issue. And also, if the host was also gone, then all these end users would have created tickets, would have really, you would know right away. They will make sure that you know right away that they can't access their machines anymore, right? So that's one thing, that if the connection is frozen, that doesn't mean your full physical server is down with all the virtual machines. So if that's the case, that you discover that virtual machines are still up, then you just wait till night when everyone is disconnected, and then you can just check that why this connection is frozen, right? So you would not shut down the host. That's the one thing. And second scenario is, if suppose there were switches here, and there's a physical switch here, suppose, and then there's a physical switch here. So half of the hosts are connected to this physical switch, phi switch, and switch, right? And half of the hosts are connected to this physical switch. So in case the switches have some discommunication, they got disconnected. So half of the hosts are disconnected, other half are disconnected from the other half, right? So what happens is, just VMware wants just to share that as well, that the hosts that are disconnected, they also then they cannot reach the master host, so they temporarily make one of them as master, and then start sending I'm alive packet to that. They have to have some kind of master there to send I'm alive packet, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And when that disconnectivity is removed or resolved, then this master host just submits all the information to the actual master host and becomes slave host again, and then they all send I'm alive packets to the master host. So that's one more situation where disconnected slave hosts poll one of them to be the master host. That's just some process that VMware wants you to know. Then there is another scenario here where you have actually data stores, and those data stores can also be connected. Data store, right? That's a data store, that's a data, suppose that's a data store, and that's a data store, right? So another scenario is that vCenter lost connectivity with the master host. Suppose the connection is frozen from the master host to the vCenter. Now, how does vCenter know that what's going on? Are all the slave hosts alive or not? So you can also connect your hosts, all hosts, to the data store as well. They can also send information of I'm alive. They can send I'm alive packets to the data stores as well as the master host. So in case the vCenter loses connection from the master host, vCenter would know from data stores that hey, everyone's okay, data stores. And data store says, yes, we are confirming everyone's okay, vCenter, don't worry about them, they are communicating with us. So and after some time, if you resolve the connection between master host and vCenter, then vCenter again gets the information directly. Otherwise, they also can send, and we're going to configure that now, that please send the information not only I'm alive packet, not only to the master host, which they automatically are doing, but also send it to the data stores as well, as the second source of information for vCenter in case it loses connectivity with master host. So that's the third scenario that we're talking about, right? So there are certain scenarios that are critical to be mentioned. If we go back to our environment here, so I'll be showing you where is master and host slave written there, because normally when you create a vSAN, at that time it shows there, and then there are so many areas where I have to dig out myself. Normally it shows in vSAN, also in when we go to DRS, then it will also have one area where it will show that. So otherwise you can go to the host itself and check it out, but once we're done with that, so I'll try to show you. Okay, so here, response for host isolation. If the host is isolated, do you want the machines to be shut down or powered off? Now in my case, I would want it to stay disabled, and we discussed the reason already. Maybe if hosts are isolated from our vCenter, doesn't mean that the host is actually down, doesn't mean that the virtual machines on top of the host are actually down. So end users might still be connected, but the host is isolated from our network environment. So you have to investigate first and check it out that hosts are isolated from the vCenter only, or they are isolated from the end users. If they are isolated from end users, you will get a lot of calls there or tickets get created, so you will have to run anyway. But the thing is, I would not want the machines to be shut down. I would want to investigate first what's going on here, and then I would go for disable here, right? So I would not change that unless because options are there, so there could be some scenarios, right, where you may be selecting that. So maybe non-critical machines on a host, that I would select that in that case. Otherwise it disabled is okay. And then there are PDL and APD. So PDL is permanent device loss, and APD is all paths down. That's very easy to understand. If you have in fact that's the diagram that we are already using here. That's about the storage. If PDL, so PDL is permanent device loss. So you might get that in the exam, and you might get that. So even in the last class, last batch of Humber, very few students did that VMware exam, but the majority of them, actually very few, did the AWS and Azure as well. So that's really strange, given the market situation when you are supposed to be certified as soon as possible. Anyway, so what I was saying was that the students who gave the exam, they said that there were questions about HA there. So PDL, permanent device loss, just means that it's about storage first of all, and which device it is talking about. This disks that we created. So we're talking about SAN here. So SAN devices that are there, if there's a permanent failure of the device, so what will happen? Okay, this device failed, right? But your virtual machine is actually here. So will it affect the virtual machine? What kind of question is that? Obviously it's going to affect the virtual machine, because virtual machine is sitting on that device, right? So as soon as this virtual disk is on a data store, that is on a LAN or shared disk over the network. It is mapped on the network right now, right? But actually this disk is physically here. And permanent device loss means that, okay, this device is actually gone from the SAN. Now in SAN, if you have a expensive one, so it would be RAID protected, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 10, right? So if one disk goes down, the other disk still keep the show running. That's what RAID does, right? But permanent device loss means that there might be more damage there, and even with RAID, there are limitations. So the device is actually lost. So in that case, what do you do? So that virtual machine will not be accessible because the hard disk is not accessible anyway, right? That virtual disk is on top of a physical disk that is gone, loss, right? So you might have to restore. Either you can resolve that issue and the device is back up, or you have to restore from the backup this virtual disk, right? So PDL, in case of PDL, would you want to restart the virtual machine, power off and restart VMs, or just issue events, right? Do you just want to be informed, or do you want actual machines to be powered off? Now, suppose why that power off option is there, because if it was down, then you resolved it, or the storage administrator resolved it, right? Now it's back up, but the machine is actually not responding. So at that time, it's good to, maybe it's frozen, virtual machine is frozen after this experience. So the underlying hardware is resolved and the LAN is back up again, but you need to restart the virtual machine in that case, right? So many of the cases it happens, or in some cases the machine is back up as well. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to restart. So it's up to you. In this situation, do you want to restart or do you want to keep it disabled? It's up to you. But the main thing is, do we understand what it means, right? So you're the administrator of your environment in production environment, and you would have pros and cons of both options. So data store with APD all paths down is kind of similar to what we talked about, kind of. So permanent device loss means the actual device is lost, but here all paths down is whatever paths going from your SAN, from storage to over the network to the two hypervisors, those paths are down, right? Paths going to the storage are down. It's pretty much the same kind of effect is there, that the virtual machine, you won't, because you don't have access to the virtual disk, so you can't, pretty much you can't do anything. You can't do anything, right? So in that case, this virtual machine is actually living on RAM, right? It started on RAM. It's not living on RAM, but it's running on RAM. But the virtual disk is gone. The connectivity to the virtual disk is gone. So pretty much you can't do anything. So in that case, would you want the virtual machine to restart? Once you recover these paths, you will have to recover these paths anyway, or create new paths, but you have to make sure the paths are back. So once the paths to the storage is back, do you want the machines to restart or not? So power off and restart VMs conservative, power off and restart the VMs aggressive. Wow, they're both power offs, but one is conservative and one is aggressive. Like do it fast or do it real fast. So it's kind of that. So you want to keep it disabled? I would want to keep it disabled. Otherwise, you know, but they have that option. Suppose it's non-critical machines, you can just go for the other options as well, that just restart. Sometimes in critical, in production environments also, some administrators choose this. And hey, machine might be unresponsive after the underlying storage has been recovered. So in that case, just power off. And then comes the final one, and that is VM monitoring. And VM monitoring is strange as well. VM monitoring says that first of all, it shows two options here, right? One is VM monitoring only, other is VM and application monitoring. So in VM monitoring and application monitoring, do you want, so what happens first is that you install VMware tools, right? VMware tools here. So what VMware tools do, or you can just ask a programmer to make sure that VMware tools send I'm alive packets to HA. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, and HA gets that information per second, right? Now virtual machines are sending I'm alive packets. For some reason, the I'm alive packets are gone, are not reaching. So what it asks here, do you want me to restart the virtual machine, or suppose the I'm alive packets were supposed to tell you if the virtual machine is running or not, or if they are also supposed to tell you if application is running or not, right? So I'm alive packets should be, if they're not coming, do you want me to restart, or in that case, or not restart the machine? So well, majority of the administrators keep it disabled. Why? Because suppose the for some reason machine is okay, but VMware tools has some corruption for some reason, and it stopped sending you I'm alive packets. But the virtual machine itself is fine. End users are connected. But HA is told if I'm alive packets are not there, just restart the machine. That's it, right? So better to go yourself and investigate that why I'm alive packets from VMware tools inside virtual machine not being sent to HA. Investigate yourself and then check, and don't let the HA restart the machine. Sometimes it works. It actually is good. You're busy somewhere else in another ticket resolution while the machine is just waiting for you to restart it, so it could just work. Maybe some thing happened and packets generally are not being sent because there's some general issue there. So in that case, it should have been restarted, but you don't know. If you investigate sometimes and you see that, oh, HA restarted for no reason, seriously. So it's up to you, but you should understand that what is that option doing? It means that VMware tools are sending IMLF packets. If it doesn't send, HA is told to restart the machine. but well, kind of recommendation is keep it disabled. You should investigate yourself. Don't leave everything on HA to decide, right? So in this case, we've discussed about these options here. So let's take a screenshot of this page, and it's a HA failure and responses page. Let's take a screenshot of this page, which says failures and responses page here. HA failures and responses page. So let's take a screenshot of this page. I'm just going to take a screenshot now and put it on WhatsApp. The screenshot one is HA failures and responses page. So I'll put that screenshot there. And screenshot one HA failures and responses page. Okay, so it's on the WhatsApp as well, well, the screenshot and failures and responses. So that's one thing. So guys, the main thing is I could show you a lot of actions here as well. Click this, click that, click this, click that, and you're also interested. And I understand that longer theory is boring, but this might get you a job if you get the concepts right here and then say it in the interview as well. The main eyes on the prize is the interview should be good, right? So it could be boring theory, but if you are trying to understand, it could be very, very good option for you. Yeah. So Sandeep says, so what do the two options mean? Oh, okay. So the two options mean here, VM monitoring only means that if there is a problem with the virtual machine, so only monitor if the VM has an issue. This means that the IMLIF packets are coming. So suppose I select that VM monitoring. So if anything happens to VM, then the IMLIF packet will stop coming, right? But if there's a problem, so I've just enable, just open this, see this, click this arrow, this one. So there is VM monitoring, application monitoring. So turns on VMware tools heartbeats. When heartbeats are not received within a set time, the guest OS is restarted. So VM monitoring is that. And application monitoring, which is also like as far as I'm concerned, it's not recommended, but they have that option for some reason, right? So turns on application heartbeats. Now, if application heartbeats for some reason are not coming, how do you set them up? You have to have some programmer involved, and the programmer would write some application providing interface or APIs or some smaller tools or scripts that would check that, oh, if the application is running, then continue sending heartbeats. If the application is crashed, suppose the application is a hospital application that some developers created, or insurance company application, or any other application that you want to connect to heartbeats as well. So if that application is not running, you can put some scripts there that stop sending heartbeats if the application has crashed. Normally, how do you know that application is crashed? If the background service is stopped for some reason, and just like if you go to services here, services.msc, and I've just opened it, and these are the services, right? So they are all running for any application. This is a lifeline. If you suppose stop a service, that whole application or a major portion of that application stops. So suppose you put the programmer there to say that, hey, if our hospital applications, the 2 or 3 services are there mentioned, their status, this status is on stop, then just restart my virtual machine. Then tell HA, then stop sending heartbeats. If any of the services here are not running and stopped, then stop sending heartbeats and HA will restart. So it actually is kind of a good idea, but suppose they are still running and there is something wrong with the tool, and heartbeats are stopped for some other reason. So you just need to know that what you're setting up is exactly working fine. If the application is stopped and users are not doing anything anyway, right? And if HA restarts it, and right after that all services are started once again, so it saves a lot of your time. There will be a downtime for the end users, disconnectivity for a short time, but they get to connect again, right? Until, or they would wait for you for half an hour, 1 hour. You would come back here and investigate, and then you'll find out, oh, so this is not running. Let me restart. Oh, they're not starting. So you start the virtual machine and they start. So why don't you let HA do that? So that's what application monitoring and VM monitoring is, that you need to, and you can just delay the heartbeat and restart procedure as well if you want. But the thing is that do you want HA to restart, or do you want to come yourself and investigate what happened and then restart yourself? So, well, that's what they're paying you for, but VMware says that we have put some options here for you, and if you don't want to use that, just keep it disabled. Yep. Okay, guys, so here, if you have taken a screenshot of this, failures and responses, and that's screenshot number 1, so let's go for the next one, yay! So, the thing is that, yeah, so proactive HA failures, expect a lot of, quiz questions from this area, like HA and DRS, because there are so many options here, so my next quiz will be also really spicy. Wow, spicy quiz, seriously. Okay, so please repeat. You missed one. Which one? Okay, let's repeat from the start. Here, failure conditions and responses. So first of all, we created this Vsphere availability, and then, just kidding, okay. So yeah, here, failure and responses. So Madhuri, what portion of this, this one, VM monitoring? Or from failure response? Where? This one? That was a lot of explanation, Madhuri. Oh, okay. Failure response. VM monitoring. I think you were asking about this one. Last 5 seconds. Okay, 5 lines. Last 5 lines. You mean all these? Right? You mean all these? Or you can come to the mic and... Okay. Last 5 my lines, if you're saying... Okay, so I'm assuming that you're talking about last 5 lines that I said. So I'm just going to go back here to VM monitoring. And here, so I was just saying that it is... so VM monitoring is that if the virtual machine is not sending I'm alive packets, so HA will restart the machine, right? And if application stops, and because of that, the heartbeat packets are not being sent, so HA will restart in that case as well. So why would you want HA to restart? Because if virtual machine is not sending heartbeats, this means that virtual machine might be frozen. So if it's frozen, the only way is to restart to get rid of that status. So if it is frozen, but if it's not frozen and heartbeat packets are still not being sent, so it would not be fair for HA to restart the machine and disconnect all the end users. So that's why we're saying that keep it disabled and investigate it yourself, because you're being paid for that, right? And application monitoring is that obviously if you connect that heartbeat to application working, application services, if the services are running in a running state, then it will, if the application is in a running state like this, so then keep sending the heartbeat packets. And suppose it is actually stopped here, so I'm not going to stop this one, but if it's in a stopped state, then it will stop sending the heartbeats as well. In that case, restart the machine. HA will restart your whole virtual machine just because your application stopped working. So sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's a bad idea. So better go to your machine, go to this machine where end users are connecting, and investigate it yourself instead of letting HA restart. Maybe it's a non-critical machine, so then it makes sense that, hey, just restart it right away, and it would just get connected again to the end users. So that's what we were talking about in the last 5 lines. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and try to so here now there's that other one, and that is proactive HA failures and responses. So in the final quiz, I'll be obviously covering all these topics And so that's why. But the main thing is eyes on the prize. In your job, if somebody asks that, so you should be able to respond to that. Students with, and I'm repeating again and again, students with cloud certifications, good cloud certifications that you must be doing that right now. They were asked VMware questions as well. Okay, anyway, so proactive HA failures and responses. You can configure how proactive HA responds. So proactive HA just means that the disaster is about to happen and you already, so disaster is about to happen in this host. Now how can you actually tell disaster is about to happen? Suppose there was an event at 9 p.m. that the disk is 80% full. Then at 9:30 p.m. Disk is 90% full. And at so another event came, alert came, 95% full, right? 80, 85, 90, 95. So you are proactive and you saw that, okay, next 5% the disk is going to be full, and as soon as the disk is full, all services go to stop. You can't do anything if the disk is full because so much is being written and read from the disk as well. So application services they go to stop. So that's why proactive just means that events, some of the events are very clear that the machine is about to go down, or big thing might happen, big crash might happen. So proactively what they can do is they can vmotion the machine before the next event. Even when it says right away 95% of the disk is full, at once proactively it will migrate vmotion all the machines while the host is still up. It's gonna migrate all the machines away from E6i1 to E6i2, right? So proactive is introduced in 6.5 version. 6.0, the previous one did not have the proactive one, proactive Drs. So that's a really cool feature. So if we're on proactive, so it says, yeah, you can configure how proactive HA responds when a provider, like a monitoring application, has notified its health degradation to Vcenter. The health of some of the hosts, one of the hosts is actually degrading fast, right? Maybe CPU was 80%, then it went to 90%, then it's 95, and it's on 98% now, right? So you need to act now. Instead of reaction, you're being proactive and you're just doing it right away before the obvious disaster strikes, right? So provider has notified its health degradation to Vcenter, indicating a partial failure of that host. In the event of a partial failure, so already when suppose CPU is 95%, it's already too slow, unacceptably slow right now. So that's a partial failure already, right? So in the event of a partial failure, Vcenter server can proactively migrate the hosts running VMs to a healthier host. So that's a very good thing. Your HA can migrate your machines away from this partial failure where it's already very slow and it's about to go even worse than that, right? So that's good, right? So you want to do it yourself. That's what they're paying you for, right? But there are options here that you can use, and they're paying you for selecting good options as well. So manual Vcenter server will suggest migration recommendation. So either you want suggestions from, or do you want it to be automated? This means if you're sure HA, please go ahead and you got my permission, right? So virtual machines will be migrated to healthy hosts and degraded hosts will be entered into a quarantine or maintenance mode. So what is quarantine and maintenance mode? So it will take two actions at the same time. Not only that, HA, proactive HA will migrate the machines to a healthy host, but also quarantine this partial failure status host. It's gonna quarantine means you can't run anything on that host. And maintenance mode, when you're doing maintenance, also at that time, at that status, you cannot run anything as well, right? So quarantine or maintenance mode, depending on the configured proactive HA automation level. So if you put it on automated, now you've given full permission to handle this partial failure host. and all the events are in view, so it automatically takes a decision for you on your behalf. Just be careful, but anyway, this is a good thing. So guys, go ahead and click that automated here, and then there's a remediation here. So I hope everyone has put the selected automated here. So then there is remediation, quarantine mode for all failures. So remediation is what? Balances performance and availability by avoiding the usage of partially degraded hosts as long as virtual machine performance is unaffected. So it's just saying that quarantine mode for all failures. So yeah, it's just saying that avoiding the usage of partially degraded hosts. That's the main thing to understand. That it's not going to let the virtual machines use the hosts that have degraded performance. It's gonna just move them away. That's what it's saying. Quarantine mode for moderate and maintenance mode for severe failure. So if there is a moderately bad performance, then it's gonna still quarantine or move away the virtual machines, but it's gonna put the maintenance mode the host if there's a severe failure. You're sure it's on 95% CPU now, 98% CPU now. It's being used at that time. You can't pretty much use anything. I mean, you open a file at 98% CPU busy, so you can't open properly a file there, right? So it's so slow in that case. So that's why. So it's up to you. How do you want to use that? And maintenance mode for all failures ensures virtual machines do not run on partially failed hosts. This means that if the failure is moderate or severe, it's gonna move the machine anyway, and it's gonna put the host on maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is like if you have restarted the Windows machine. Some of you may have done it, and you press F8 and it goes to a safe mode, right? None of the drivers are loaded in the safe mode, but you can't do pretty much anything there other than the maintenance or troubleshooting, mainly troubleshooting. Alright guys, so we understand that we're going to keep it to quarantine mode for all failures and automated. So hopefully you have selected the automated option here, and admission control, heartbeat data stores. So let's take a screenshot of this. Proactive HA failures and responses. Proactive HA failures and response. HA is also mentioned. So this is the name of screenshot number 2. Screenshot number 2 is proactive HA failures and responses. So I'll just take a screenshot number 2 here. Hopefully you're taking it. And I'll put it on the WhatsApp. Screenshot 2. That's just the name which is written there. Proactive HA failures and responses. Right? So that's a screenshot number 2. Automated is only selected here, and the name of the screenshot number 2 is the name of this page, which is proactive HA failures and responses. Hopefully everyone has taken that. Brother says I can't change proactive to automatic. Options are disabled. Why would option be disabled? Did you enable DRS, brother? Is the DRS enabled? And then is turn on proactive HA is also enabled? So, and Amarjit says I have no this option. You don't have this option. You don't have this option at all? Are you kidding me? Okay, so just go to DRS, brother, and enable this. Check this, and then go back and check this one as well. Turn on proactive HA. Then come here. But Amarjit, did you install 6.5 or 6.0? That's very late to ask that. The course is about to finish. Okay, so welcome. Because I'm sure it's 6.5 for Amarjit, but how come you don't see that option? That's strange. Oh, maybe you're seeing this, right? So maybe you're seeing this. So you have to expand that arrow here. Or you can just drop down here and just change it to automated. This one, right? That's the same thing. Okay, there's a screenshot here, and I'll put it here. The screenshot, and Vsphere HA is turned on. Yeah, proactive HA is turned off. So why is proactive HA turned off? Oh, Oh, you're on the other one. You're on the HTML based. Did you turn on Amarjeet the DRS? Hey, we all did that. How come both of you missed it? So turn on DRS and refresh the page. Yeah, turn on the DRS. Click the DRS here. Oh, I think Olafemi is also on HTML5 because there you can refresh. Here in Flash Player you cannot. Flash Base you cannot refresh. So enable DRS and then. Oh, okay. So Olafemi is saying yes, Vcenter is working for me today. Oh, not working for me. Okay, odd. Ouch. So okay, so if there is any kind of error, guys, you can just take that screenshot. So I would know that okay, there's a reason that the correct screenshot is not there. So if there's a reason, then it's okay, as long as you've shown the reason. Okay, guys. So here we're on HA failure. One of my VM is orphaned. Ouch. Shabandhan says orphaned. Well, just you can just rescan the storage as we have been doing in previous classes. Otherwise, if one machine is orphaned and all of the machines are okay, then that data store on which it was might not be available. So rescan the data store, Shabadin. Otherwise, just create another machine for now. Okay, guys. So then we go for admission control here, and this is like the NASA mission control. But admission control has a very big responsibility, and Himan says where you see proactive HA not turn on, select edit option there. Oh, okay. So there you go. Himan also is helping. That's good. So maybe Himan is also on HTML5, so that's good. Those who are on HTML5 and you had done it already, you can just give that tip to others. Thank you. Wow, it's heat warning today. Okay, guys, so what is admission control? Admission control is you control what you admit, right? So never admit everything, right? Just control what you keep on admitting. Oh, I admit I ate your cake. I admit I ate your chocolate when you were gone. So stop admitting everything. Okay, that's not what this admission control is all about. That was just kidding. Okay, so yeah, admission control is that host failures cluster tolerates. Okay, so there's another picture here. Oh, there you go. So Iman is actually Himanshu is showing that. So Amarjeet, if you can follow that. Thank you, Iman. Okay, so here, admission control is a policy used by Vsphere Ha to ensure failover capacity within a cluster. Now that's a very, very critical feature here that we are about to disable. What? You just said, hey, teach. You said it's critical feature, and you said we're about to disable? Yes, I did say that. Okay, first of all, let's understand the feature. Admission control is mucho critical. So let me just say it in that accent. Mucho, mucho critical. Right? So it's really critical here. And what does it do? So what it does is that admission control does capacity reservation. So admission control does capacity reservation. Okay. Did I actually explain it or did I make you more confused? So yeah, we're gonna talk in detail now. What does that mean? Whatever I just said. So what is capacity? Okay, there's that. Anthony's asking. So the difference between maintenance mode and quarantine are the severity of the degradation, moderate versus partial. Exactly. Wow. Okay. Yes, Anthony. But yeah, if it's severe, you're gonna go for maintenance mode, and if it's moderate, then you're gonna go for quarantine. Quarantine. So maintenance, you can't do pretty much anything. Quarantine, you can stop virtual machines from doing anything. But if you release from quarantine, then they can be again used. Maintenance mode is a longer procedure. We're going to do that when we are about to do VMware Update Manager. Then we're going to use maintenance mode as well. So yes, you're right. So admission control does capacity reservation. So guys, what is capacity reservation? Capacity reservation is that you want to save the capacity of one host worth of virtual machines across all other hosts. Wow, what did I just said? What? Okay, so what I mean here is that suppose you have a lot of hosts here, E6i3, E6i4, E6i5, E6i6, right? So the boss says, hey, did you do capacity reservation? And you say yes. So how many hosts can we lose and still we can work? How many hosts can we lose and still the work will keep on going? So you say, sir, we can lose one host and whatever virtual machines were there actually can be easily distributed among all the other hosts. 2 machines here on this host, 3 machines here, 2 machines here, 1 machine here, and 3 machines here, right? If you're able to distribute the virtual machines of a crashed host to all the other hosts and divide among them and they work fine, then this is called capacity reservation. So what does that mean still, capacity reservation? So you say that, hey, all the hosts, from now on, you're not gonna use 25% of CPU and 25% of RAM. From now on, I will not let you use more than 75% of the resources of the host. So this is reserved if the disaster strikes. So this is reserved for those machines in all hosts. So this capacity is reserved in every host now. So this means that in any of those hosts, if they needed more than 75% of CPU and or RAM, then they won't get it because it is reserved in case one of the hosts crashes and their virtual machines have to be restarted onto the other hosts. So they will be divided among all these hosts, and these hosts better have those CPU and RAM available for the virtual machines that are being restarted from the crashed host, right? So hopefully you understand what I just said, that you can reserve the capacity and keep it reserved throughout the year, maybe for 2 years, maybe 3 years, the disaster never strike, right? We don't know when disaster will strike. We just don't know, right? So you must reserve some capacity on every host that can tolerate the loss of at least one hypervisor. And one hypervisor worth of virtual machines can be distributed among all hosts. Suppose you did not do that capacity reservation, right? And when the disaster strike, now what happened was, since there was no capacity reservation, none of the capacity was reserved. So this host was using 90% of CPU and 95% of RAM at the time of one host disaster. This was also on 90%. This was also on 90% because it's a peak time and the disaster strike on one host. But since there was no capacity reservation, now none of those hosts can accommodate the virtual machines of a crashed host. So this means that those virtual machines will never restart, or if they do restart, they will still choke up that host as well, where already machines are working on 90% or 95%, right? So that's why you need to do capacity reservation across all hosts to tolerate the loss of at least one hypervisor, right? That's the admission control that you do. And the main word would be admission control does capacity reservation, and you reserve the CPU and RAM capacity. So we reserve CPU and RAM for up to a certain percentage, right? Certain percentage to accommodate VMs of the crash host, right? So that's very critical to understand, and you have to configure it you have to answer that in the interview as well. What is capacity reservation? That question always comes. If we don't know capacity reservation, then we're not VMware administrator. Okay, that's a very big statement, but anyway, you should know that. Okay, so you have to reserve that capacity on all hosts. So if one host goes down, obviously. So there are many other options. So it says host failures cluster tolerates. How many failures, host failures, can your cluster tolerate right now? It says maximum is one less than number of hosts in cluster. So obviously, you can have one host worth of, you can just lose, you can tolerate the loss of one host. That's what it's saying, right? Define host failover capacity by cluster resource percentage, or slot policy percentage, or dedicated failover hosts. So what does that mean? So how do you want to reserve the capacity, right? Capacity, how do you want to do that capacity reservation? So slot policy is one more option here. If I select the slot policy is that you're telling the HA, hey HA, why don't you just do analysis of your own and check that if how many machines, average machines, are on a typical host, right? So slot policy sees that it analyzes that, okay, in one hypervisor there are normally, in our company, in one hypervisor there are normally 10 machines. Okay, so how much CPU and how much RAM, average CPU and average RAM 10 machines take in our environment, right? So it analyzes that. Suppose it comes up with some option there, some number there, that this much CPU and this much RAM 10 machines can take. So this much CPU and RAM capacity is reserved on the rest of the hosts. This means that if it comes up with that, if I reserve 20% of CPU and RAM on all hosts, I will be able to start 10 machines of a crashed host. So whatever analysis does it do in slot capacity, slot capacity, yeah, slot policy. So slot policy, whatever it does, it just distributes that much CPU and RAM capacity reservation to all the hosts. So hey host, from now on you're not going to use more than 80% of RAM and 80% of CPU, or 85% of RAM, or 25% CPU and RAM should not be used at all. So it's up to you. How do you want to it's gonna do it itself. You leave that calculation to HA itself, right? So that's slot policy here. And you can actually tell yourself in the slot policy, hey, I don't need your calculations, I don't trust your calculation, HA. I'm a PhD in maths, so I can calculate better than you, right? So you can actually then tell that 32 megahertz of CPU and 100 GB or 100 MB of RAM should be set aside in all other hosts. So you can just do the calculation yourself. Better let the machines calculate and analyze. I mean, machines do it better than humans in some cases, right? So okay, so that's slot policy, that how much average machine takes CPU and RAM, and divide that as a reserve capacity in all other hosts. That's what slot policy is, right? And if you go for dedicated failover host, that's the easiest one. Dedicated failover host. So this means one of the hosts. So if I do that, some of us will, or every one of us will do that. If I went ahead, and then some of us might actually forget to remove. So, but still, let's see who's sharp, who's paying attention. So dedicated failover host means what? Let's click the plus sign here. Let's click the plus sign in dedicated failover host, and then whatever. I mean, okay, maybe E6i2. I'm just selecting randomly E6i2, right? I'm gonna press OK. Now, what did I just do? What does this mean? This means that this host will always permanently be on standby from now on, right? So if it is on standby, then it is not being used at all for, maybe the disaster never happens for the whole year, for next 2 years, maybe next 5 years disaster never strike, but this is just sitting as a standby host doing nothing. Normally the bosses, the accounts department don't like that. They say that, hey, why don't you just use it, but reserve some capacity, Don't let it use more than 80% or more than 75%, right? CPU and RAM. But don't just put one host on. So some do that, some don't do that, it's up to you, but you should know what it really means. And it says that percentage of performance degradation the VMs in the cluster are allowed to tolerate during a failure. So how much degradation they can tolerate when they are about to be, migrated to another. So you're saying that 100%. So if you put 50% here, then if they cannot tolerate, they will shut down, right? So put it on 100% that, hey, keep the machines up, even if 100% of CPU and RAM is not available, but still just go ahead and migrate them, right? So here, guys, if you have added that, go ahead and select it and remove it. We're not using this option. If you kept using this option, then you will not be able to do some future labs, right? So remove this host from dedicated failover host. I'm clicking this option and go ahead and cross this. So remove this, make it empty. We're not using this option. We are not using this option, right? So, and then go back to cluster resource percentage. So cluster resource percentage is the default option, right? Make sure that you selected that, otherwise future labs for you will give you errors if you didn't change that. So come back to cluster resource percentage. Here you can also say that, oh yeah, I have more knowledge about analysis. My analysis are better than the machine. So suppose you do this. That's what we've been talking about all this time, right? That let the cluster and HA handle this by their own analysis, or you can just define from now on 25% of CPU and 20% of memory will not be used, and it will be reserved in all the hosts across a cluster. You can do that yourself as well, right? Now in our case, we have a very less RAM, we have very less CPU, so this whole admission control is not good for us. Why? We need to use all the available resources right now. We don't want our both hypervisors to be ready to tolerate one host loss here, right? If we do that, we already have a 4 GB RAM and it's going to reserve from 4 GB 25% of that. So we won't be able to even start one virtual machine there, right? So this is going to be embarrassing if we did that. So guys, what you can do is, so finally the screenshot would be, then first of all I'm gonna uncheck this, override calculated failover capacity. Let the cluster simply calculate, we're not going to enable admission control. We understood what these options are, and see this, go ahead and disable this, because I want a screenshot of that too. If we disable this admission control in our environment, it's okay, because we have a very slow, we have very low hardware capacity, right? So admission control will even reserve from that, whatever less hardware we have, it's going to even reserve from that too. So we don't want that. We want at least whatever RAM is available, we need to use full capacity of that RAM, right? So that's why I want you to disable the admission control here, so we could do some future labs. Otherwise you won't be able to do future labs if you did not disable that, right? Unless you have a big RAM. Even then I disable it, because in our so we need to understand what it is, but after understanding it, we're going to disable it. In production environment, you can't afford to disable it because you need one host. You need to tolerate the loss of one host if you have 10, 20, 30, 80 hosts there, right? So I hope you understand why we're disabling it. So disable it and take a screenshot. Admission control, so HA admission control disabled. That's the screenshot name, right? HA admission control disabled. That's the screenshot name. So screenshot number 3. I'll go to screenshot 3, HA admission control disabled. I'll put it on WhatsApp. So screenshot number 3 is HA admission control disabled. This screenshot is critical if it is enabled in your screenshot. So that all March that day is gone. This is very crucial for next labs, right? Alright guys, so we understand that admission control is all about capacity reservation of hardware. You want to save some capacity in case disaster strikes, right? So that's why it's very critical in production environments. And in interview, they will definitely ask for this. In HA, what's the most important feature? Okay, you go for, sir, it is admission control. Okay, so here, let's go for heartbeat data stores. And that's what I was talking about, that, when all the slave hosts are saying, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, and slave hosts were sending that I'm alive packet to the master host, but Vcenter got disconnected from master host and is not getting all the information about the status of all the slave hosts, right? So the Vcenter gets that information from data stores as well. And slave hosts are actually sending I'm alive packet to data stores, and from there Vcenter gets that information if it can't get that from the master host. So that's where the data stores are coming here. So we're going to select all three data stores here. Well, you can select one, you can select two or three, all three, or all 10. Suppose you had 10. So you selected these three data stores, and if you selected that, that's good. And let's go for then advanced options here, but go ahead and select that, right? Go ahead and select that and advanced options. But if you are unable to select, it's still not a big deal. It doesn't really matter in our environment. In production environment, it would matter. At least one data store should be selected, if not all, because they will be bombarded with I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, right? So okay, so then advanced options are, as the word says, advanced options. So this means that if you want to change the behavior, basic default behavior of any of the above features, then you go for advanced options, right? For that, you have to go to the knowledge base of VMware. You have to grab a script. Suppose you don't want failure responses to happen, and you want to gray out the whole feature here, but all of the features should be enabled. You want to gray out the admission control, but all of the features are enabled, or you want to change any of the basic behavior, default behavior of any of the features, then you go for advanced options, and you grab a script from the knowledge base of VMware and put that here, and then you just need to know what you're doing. You really want to do that or not. So, but nothing here for us then. So what we have discussed here is vSphere availability and the options turn on vSphere HA and turn on proactive HA, and all the options here that we have gone through. So other than that, there is vSphere Drs as well, which is already on fully automated. So we're going to discuss DRS. So we're going to discuss DRS, right? So DRS is a not a short one. It's not that long as HA, but it's still a bit long enough. If you want to break now, then we can start this longer topic. But if you don't want to break, then we can continue with that. Okay, no break, so nobody said anything, so let's just go for DRS is, okay, just kidding. So yeah, let's take a break. So yeah, we can break now. Yeah, definitely, actually, yeah. Hey, Teach, we really need a break. Give us a break, will ya? Okay, so let's get a break. Okay, so we connect. Class starts at 8:10 or 8:05. Class starts 8. Okay, Khalid was the first one to respond. 8:10. Oh, there went also 8:10. Okay, guys. So class starts at 8:10. 8:10. Yay. Okay, So guys, what we were talking about was the options for um, the Vsphere Drs, and well, we were talking about the availability options first of all, and then we are going for Drs here, and there's a lab for that. And so first of all, it is Drs automation, fully automated. So let's expand that Drs automation here. Let's expand this Drs automation here. So what does Drs do? Distributed resource scheduler. And we did talk about some of the comparisons here. So Drs, or distributed resource scheduler, it gets triggered when there's a degradation of performance. It simply vmotions a VM to a better performing host. So what Drs does not do is that if the host crashes, then Drs cannot do anything. And when the host is performing bad and the virtual machines are all slow, so Drs analyzes automatically. Every 5 minutes it checks the status of every host, which host has more free CPU and free RAM available, or most free CPU and RAM available. So it just vmotions the virtual machine to that host. So it automatically does all that, but you can choose that if it should do it automatically, or you'd want to just you know, wanted to do it manually. So if we go back to our environment here, so Drs automation, and there's automation level, it's already on fully automated. But what is manual, and then partially automated, and then fully automated? So manual is that Vcenter will suggest migration recommendations for virtual machines. So it's only going to recommend, suppose the E6i1 is not performing well, and A6i2 is having more CPU and RAM available, so it's gonna suggest only, if you select manual there, that please migrate the virtual machine from E6i1 to E6i2. So it's only going to do that suggestion. But when you go for partially automated, so there are two things that Drs can do, and one is it says virtual machines will be automatically placed, right, this one, onto hosts at power on, and Vcenter server will suggest migration recommendations for virtual machines. So what does that mean? So Drs does actually two things. One is automatic migration, and other is placement. So the two things it does is vmotion and placement. That's what Drs does. So what are those? Well, vmotion, we fully understand. It's moving a machine, migrating a machine from one host to another while the machine is powered on. So powered on VM gets migrated across hosts. So what is placement then? So placement is that when the machine is restarted or started from a shutdown, right? So VM is placed on the most suitable host on start of VM. So either it is restarted, or after shutdown you are starting it. So placement just means that the Drs checks that, virtual machine, SQL database virtual machine is actually starting. Okay, I think well, last time it was started on E6i1, but I think it's E6i. Suppose this E6i has a lot of CPU and RAM available. So Drs will analyze and check that, okay, last time it was started on E6i1, but now it's starting again, so let me just place it on E6i5. Suppose that is 5, right? So placement just means that if the machine is restarted or starting from shutdown, then it will start it from a most suitable host, which means that the host that has the most free RAM and CPU available for this machine to perform perfectly, right? Or as good as possible. So vMotion is so DRS does two things. Then it vMotions the virtual machines away from poor performing host to best performing host while the machine is powered on. So that's the difference between placement and vMotion. Here vMotion machine is powered on and it is done, right? Powered on. While placement is done when machine is powering on. So, or I can explain it better, about to power on, right? So it actually hasn't powered on, and the vMotion has to be or the DRS has to just think that which is the best host to place this virtual machine. So it's about to power on now, you're about to start it or restart, and then it's placed on the best possible host at that time. So that is placement and that is vMotion, right? So DRS does do these two things. Affinity says that once the move is done, what happens to the IP address? Does it change or remain the same? How would users connect back to their, no, when the migration happens, IP address remains the same, if any. So if it changes, normally the users are supposed to connect by name and not by IP address. So if it was DHCP and for some reason it changes, so the users should not know that, because it should just map to the same name, but definitely it never changes. It's in a local environment. So here vMotion and placement about to power on or placement, so we understand that, right? So if I go back to the environment, so it says partially automated, so virtual machines will be automatically placed onto hosts that power on. So what will automatically happen is the placement procedure in partially automated selection, but the vMotion will not happen automatically, only suggestions will be done for vMotion. When you go to fully automated here, then placement will be done automatically and vMotion will be done automatically. So that's fully automated. So that's the two different things that it does, placement and vMotion. So in final exam quiz, if I say that placement and vMotion are both done automatically in partially automated mode, so that would be wrong, right? They are done in fully, they're both done automatically, so in fully automated mode. So you have to be just careful what is the quiz coming. Oh, okay. Are we getting all the questions here? Well, there's that if at the start of every. So maybe this question never comes, or if it comes. So just scaring everyone right away. And yeah, it should be trembling now. Then okay. So okay. So here fully automated, and what this is one of the most important one, HE and DRS. But yes, questions are coming from FT, vSAN, and lots of things are coming. So conservative. So then we go for here aggressive and conservative. So what is aggressive and what is conservative? So first of all, we see that DRS is ready to automatically vMotion a machine if it sees that there is less performance available, less CPU and RAM available on a current host, right? So what is aggressive? Aggressive means that if there is slight improvement guaranteed, it will vMotion the machine. So it will move the machine if it sees, oh, I have like 80% of the CPU and RAM is available here, but there is 85% free CPU and RAM on the next host. Let me vMotion there. So that's called slight improvement, slightly more better than the current host. The current host is already okay, but slightly better, it will vMotion the machine. This means that the virtual machine will be guaranteed best performance at all times if it's aggressive. But if we go down to then priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4. So aggressive priority 5 we were there. Right now this was 5. Then if you go for priority 4, so it actually defines the metrics with words here, right? So it says that it promises even a moderate improvement to the cluster's load balance, and then it will move the machine. So moderate between aggressive priority 5 and priority 4 would be that if suppose 80% RAM and CPU is available and 85% is available in some other host, it will be motion. But here, if it is suppose 70% RAM and CPU is available currently free, and then there is a moderate improvement that okay, if it is 85%, 70 and 85, there's a bit bigger gap between that. If you keep going down, it's gonna the gap is gonna be bigger. Vcenter server will apply recommendations that promise at least good improvement. Good improvement mean your current host has maybe 60% RAM and CPU free, and while the other host, if the other host has 85% RAM and CPU free, then this means good improvement. Then only it will migrate. Otherwise, it will not migrate, right? And then it keeps going down here. Vcenter will apply recommendations that promise a significant. Now, significant means suppose your current host is offering 40% of free RAM and CPU, and the other host, if the other host is providing up to 85% free CPU and RAM, then only it will vMotion. Otherwise, it will not vMotion, right? So if it's significant improvement, guaranteed, then it will move. Otherwise, it won't move. So that's not a very good idea. But then the last one is that it's basic constraints to satisfy cluster constraints like affinity rules and host maintenance. So if your affinity rules is an upcoming topic right after this, but host maintenance is that if you're about to actually shut down the host and you really need to move the machine now, so then before the maintenance it will move. Otherwise, however bad performance the current host is giving, it's not gonna move the machines. That's what the most conservative means. It's not gonna move the machine unless you are shutting down the host. Then only it's gonna move. So that's, I don't know when would you use that, but obviously let's go for the aggressive one, priority 5, which means that our host, if it is slightly low performance and there's a slight higher performance guaranteed in the next one, according to the analysis of Drs, then it will simply migrate the machines, right? So before we go to the next options, guys, make sure that first of all, fully automated is selected and aggressive is selected. Make sure these two are selected. That's the first thing. Second thing is that since I'm telling you that we're going to come back to these options, right? So make sure fully automated and aggressive is selected. If it is selected, take a screenshot here. So take a screenshot number 4 where fully automated DRS and aggressive is selected. So screenshot number 4 name would be DRS fully automated and aggressive selected. Again, the screenshot number 4 name would be DRS fully automated and aggressive selected. I'm just gonna put that screenshot there in WhatsApp. I'll just put the name there as well. Screenshot 4 is DRS fully automated and aggressive selected. That's the name of the screenshot, right? And that's on WhatsApp now. So if it's fully automated and it's aggressive, I'm just going to press OK. If it's fully automated and aggressive, I'm going to press OK. Go ahead and press OK here. So we need to do a test here, right? So for that test, I need to show you some of the stuff here. So if those two are selected here, so I'm going to go to Tor cluster here, and then we can go to summary of Tor cluster, right? So click the Tor cluster and then click summary. Click the Tor cluster and click the summary, right? So in the Tor cluster and summary, you should be seeing Vsphere Drs, this one. If you don't see it here, if you keep scrolling down here, you should be seeing at the bottom Vsphere Drs if you don't see it up here. But if you see that up here, Vsphere Drs, then well, either keep it there or I'm going to drag it up here, right? I'm dragging up the Vsphere Drs just to clearly see that. Otherwise, where it is, it's also okay. I'm just dragging it up here, right? Vsphere Drs. So I'm on Tor cluster, I'm on summary, and then Vsphere Drs. Let's just click that arrow sign here, this one. Now guys, here's a green bar with a balloon in the middle, right? So this green bar and the balloon in the middle, now the balloon in the middle means that your environment is fully balanced. If the balloon is to the extreme right or the balloon is to the extreme left, this means that your environment is not balanced. Balanced means that equal number of machines are on one side and equal number of machines on the other side, and pretty much both the hosts have not much resources and they have free CPU and RAM available. That's called balanced. So both hosts have enough free RAM and CPU available. That is called balanced. So the balloon would be in the middle. But suppose if all the virtual machines are started on one host and it becomes imbalanced. In fact, we're going to do that. We're going to start all the hosts, all the virtual machines in any one of the hosts, and then we're going to see that the balloon will start shifting to either this side or that side, right? So, and what happens after that? We're going to leave 4 or 5 3 or 4 or 5, whatever number of virtual machines are there. We're going to leave all the virtual machines powered on any one host, and we're going to leave it there, right? So we want to see that the balloon should go out of this middle area and show here imbalance. We want to do that it should show imbalance. And if it shows imbalance, then where it's going to balance itself, right? So that's oh, okay, so there you go. Madhur is saying that it's already imbalanced. It's already that is imbalanced. So if it is imbalanced, so we're gonna try to make sure that it's extremely imbalanced, right? I want the bubble to reach either to the extreme right or the extreme left, and after it reaches extreme right or extreme left, which means it's fully imbalanced, you're gonna see the magic happen that the DRS will detect that, oh, it's imbalanced. So DRS's main job is to balance the environment, right? Main job of DRS is to balance the environment. So it's going to automatically try to analyze the whole environment, and then it's going to, if it has to migrate a machine from one host to another, it will do that. And after that, you will see that if the balloon has reached the extreme right or extreme left, then automatically it will start going towards the middle of the green bar, right? So that's the magic of DRS. It's so cool, it's so automated that it's amazing. So we're gonna make this environment extremely imbalanced as far as we can make it imbalanced, right? And then it's going to automatically balance itself, just like in 2016 elections, I think 2017. Justin Trudeau used to say that the budget will balance itself. Maybe some of you have heard that. Or maybe you were not there in Canada at that time. I don't know. So, okay. Anyway, so the thing is, let's make it extremely imbalanced and let DRS automatically balance it, because we put it on fully automated and aggressive. So DRS is supposed to balance it itself. So how I'm going to try to imbalance this, first of all, see this. If I click first virtual machine and make sure the virtual machines are on summary view here, summary view. So I see that my first virtual machine is on E6i1. If I go to second virtual machine, it's on E6i2 actually. Okay, I need to either you shift all the machines to E6i1 or shift all the machines to E6i2, whichever, right? So I need to migrate VM02 to E6i1 as well. And if I go to VM02 here, it's also on E6i1. If I go to VM03 here, it's on 2 actually. It has already balanced it, seriously. Okay, I'm gonna imbalance it again. And then if I go to the fifth machine, this is also on E6i1. So the 2 machines that I have on E6i2, I'm gonna migrate them to E6i1. Then I'm going to power on all the machines, right? Then I'm gonna power on all the machines. This VM02 is in E6i2. I'm gonna right click and click this migrate here, right? We know that procedure. So right click and migrate. and change compute resource only. I'm gonna next. I want it to go to, it is currently on 2. I'm gonna try to push it to 1. So it's say 1, next. Or you can create, if you cannot migrate, then just create 1 or 2 more. Then it's next, finish, right? Just push it to the other, so schedule vmotion with high priority and finish. So now VM02 is migrating to E6i1 as well. And yes, E6i1, it has changed that. So there's a, oh, okay, sure. Then there is VM03 here, and that is on also on 2. I'm just gonna migrate that too. Even if it is powered off, go ahead and migrate, right? Even if it is powered off, go ahead and migrate. Change computer source only. Next, I'm gonna migrate it to 1 as well. So my all 5 machines are on 1. If you have 4 machines, if you have 3 machines, if you have 6 machines, just migrate them all to 1 and power them on. So I've migrated the other machine as well to 1. Now I'm going to power on all the machines one by one. So VM01, I want it to be on the balloon, on the green bar, I want it to be extremely imbalanced. And VM01 I'm powering on. VM02 I'm powering on. Everyone is on E6i1, so I'm putting a pressure on just one hypervisor. That's the point, right? And DRS better do its magic, and you're gonna see that magic, that it balances the environment again. It will automatically vmotion your machines, right? So I'm gonna power on the 5th machine as well. That's supposed to be extremely imbalanced. Now I have powered on 5 machines, all on ESXi1, right? I want to see that green bar with a balloon. Where is the balloon now? I'm gonna click that door cluster here. I'm gonna go to the summary view, and yes, now it is showing imbalance, but it's not really out yet. So DRS is in action as well in the background. It's going to make sure that the balloon. So if I refresh this, see this refresh. So slowly you will see that the balloon will start going towards one side, and this means that the environment is imbalanced. That all machine. Oh, seriously, it's going back. Hey, I wanted imbalance. DRS, stop working so fast. Oh, it's going back, seriously. Hey, that's not fun. Okay, maybe it migrated back the machines to E6i2 to balance the environment. Before it could do imbalance, okay, I need to check where my machines are. I know that I migrated my machines to E6i1. Now if I see one by one again where my machines are, if any one of the machine here is on E6i2, now this means that DRS has vmotioned automatically that machine back to E6i2. So if I refresh again, is it fully balanced? Oh, it says balanced already. Seriously? Okay, so I'll check my VM01. Oh, okay, Paul says was imbalanced and now balanced. Way to go. So my VM01 is on E6i1. VM02 is back to E6i2. Seriously, I migrated in front of you to E6i1. DRS migrated it back to E6i2 again. Okay. And oh, third one was on E6i1 actually, but DRS migrated that one as well to E6i2 automatically. VM03. Oh, that is on 1. That is still on 1. I migrated that from 2 to 1. And 5th one is on 2. Okay, so 3 machines are on 2. This was previously on 1 as well. So in my case, DRS was too active, hyperactive. It migrated my VM02, VM02 template, and VM02 clone VM02 template. It migrated all 3 machines automatically to E6i1, E6i2, sorry. So make it manual to check. Yeah, then it's never gonna move. So right now it is moving because I just showed you that they were all on E6i1, right? And I didn't migrate again to E6i2 back. So this means that. So guys, if I go to Tor cluster, it's fully balanced, which is okay. You know, if we had operating systems in 3 or 4 machines, then it would have taken some time. Or before enabling DRS, we should imbalance and then enable DRS after that, right? Then you will see a real imbalance and then balance again. Okay, right? So yeah, but if you want to play with that, that's good. Guys, one more thing that I want to show you here, Tor cluster. Go to monitor here. Tor cluster, go to monitor. Tor cluster, go to monitor, and then go to Vsphere Drs. So Tor cluster, monitor, Vsphere Drs, and then history. Fourth one is history. So there are all the suggestions that it did. So Tor cluster, monitor, Vsphere Drs, and history. So what happened at what time is showing here. Migration happened at what time, placements happened at, remember that DRS does two things, placements and migrations, right? So in the history it shows all that, right? And in, you know, whatever you did now, maybe it will show a bit later, but it shows all that in the history. So I need a screenshot for this page where Tor cluster, monitor, Vsphere Drs, and history is showing. So your virtual machines will be shown what happened to your virtual machines at what time, right? So that will be our screenshot number 5. That DRS, Vsphere Drs monitor page, Vsphere Drs monitor page. So it will tell you, even if there are hundreds of machines, thousands of machines there, it will tell you which machine went where, right? So Vsphere Drs monitor page. So I'm just gonna take that screenshot now. Hopefully you're taking that screenshot as well. And I am putting it here. And screenshot number 5. Screenshot 5. Vsphere Drs monitor page. Vsphere Drs monitor page. So that screenshot is on WhatsApp. Oh, Affinity says I don't have any logs. So Affinity, exactly, did you click on Tor cluster and then monitor and then Vsphere Drs and then history, right? So maybe you've clicked the E6i one. Okay, so take a screenshot of that if any, it's okay. This means that it's going to show you after some time. The log files appear here sometimes, a delay as well. So just take a screenshot of what you, if it is empty, even if it's empty, it should be on the right pages here, right icons here, right sections. If it's right section, then that's it. It's okay. Even if it's empty, take a screenshot of that. And then, okay, Olufemi says, after 2 hours, my Vcenter is finally back. Ah, there you go. 2 hours. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. And Shabadan says, me. Okay, that's, so, okay, me is a very good comment. I have no idea what you mean by that. Okay, Olufemi says, I don't have anything on the list too. Okay, so I got only one entry, Ruben says. So guys, if it is empty, or if you have any number of entries, it's okay. Take a screenshot of this area. If it doesn't show anything, it shows something, it shows a lot of things, take a screenshot on any of these scenarios. I have a similar problem like Olufemi. Yep, Shabuddin, it's okay. Go for, oh, you wanted to say me too. Okay, you just put me. So, yeah, that's it. Just take a screenshot even if it is empty. See, so easy, cool. Okay, but you should know the area where it's gonna show later from the log files the activity of DRS, right? So it's gonna show later, but you should just take a picture of this area. That's why the screenshot name is that it's a page. It's a DRS monitor page. That's it. Okay, guys. So if you got the picture here, that is good. And then what we need to do is, okay, So Shabuddin says, I have similar problem like Olufemi, which is good. I mean, like, which is not good, but Shabuddin, take a screenshot of the empty screen. It is okay. And Anthony says, my PC just crashed. Blue screen of death. Ouch. Okay. Well, our luck, Anthony. It happens to me sometimes as well. And well, it will restart. It will come back. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, like, it's not okay, but it's okay. But not okay. Okay, what am I saying? So, like, keep going, and you can just say that in the picture screenshot that I had. Oh, you can take a picture of that blue BSOD, right? From your cell phone and just upload that one for the screen. Alright guys, so this DRS, that's one portion of DRS. There are some more options of DRS that we can see as well. So let's go ahead and see that. Yay! Or yay. Okay, so what we need to do is, oh, that's scary. Yeah. Whew. Since 5:30. Oh, that's Khalid showing that. I thought it was that. Oh man. Alright, so Khalid, just upload that screenshot, and I would. It's okay. Just upload that screenshot, right? As long as you have a screenshot for the reason, you're okay. Okay, guys. So let us go ahead and try to troubleshoot Khalid because in production environment it happens. So try to gain that troubleshooting. That's for everyone. Try to sharpen your troubleshooting skills if you can, right? That's always the best thing. Make it happen, make it working. At least try, give your best shot, right? Okay, thank you. And Ruben says, face the same error, restarted the services and it worked. Oh, there you go. Wow, Ruben, way to go. So yes, I salute your troubleshooting and your determination to come back. So everyone has that here. So just try to T-shoot and give it your best shot. Google it, YouTube it. Whoever got this error, how did he or she resolve it? So make sure, just make it happen. That's what the bosses say in the production environment. So just try at least to make it happen, right? Alright guys, so let us go ahead and try to, if you're on the Tor cluster here, then we can go to summary view again. So in fact, sorry, when you're on Tor cluster, don't go to summary view, go to configure. So on Tor cluster, click, and then configure, click, because we need to still know some more of the features of DRS, because that's a real time saver for you. Also, DRS comes with Enterprise Plus license. So Enterprise Plus is the most expensive license in VMware vSphere, and obviously then you will find DRS only in big companies, right? Or whoever can afford it. Some companies have 15 employees, but they're earning millions and millions of dollars. The company is small, but the business is big, and they're earning millions. I'm doing a contract with a company nowadays, and it's just what, 12 employees, and the guy's a millionaire, and they're doing some shipping business. So we have to just do backups and everything else, and email related troubleshooting. So the thing is, yeah, whoever can afford it. Normally DRS is for large environments. Okay guys, so what we're doing here is Vsphere Drs, Tor cluster, Vsphere Drs, and then let's click edit again. Let's click edit again. So once we click edit here, and one day, Monday or Sunday, it's gonna open. Seriously. Oh, now I clicked. And okay, so here we need to check out some more options. So if you expand the DRS here, Drs Automation, and okay, one more thing guys, that if you did not upload any reason in the lab, if it's empty, so then it will be 0 marks, right? So I have to have some error reason there, and then you're okay. That's easy enough, right? I'm not asking you to make it happen. No, it has to work. If it's out of your control, I understand that, right? But if somebody does not upload at all anything, so that's a 0 mark. Or if you upload some blank document that you think I'm not gonna check, so That will be not 0, minus 10. So okay, and that definitely is not temperature I'm talking about. So okay guys, very few students actually pull that off as well, that he's not gonna check in. They put blank document and seriously then they are crying. Okay, guys here, but I'm sure you're not one of those. I'm sure you guys are smart. Okay guys, so here predictive DRS. Wow, that's good. Just like you saw proactive HA, right? There's a predictive DRS. Wow. So it predicts or forecasted metrics provided by vRealize operation. So first of all, it says that in addition to real-time metrics, it is already real-time here, fully automated and aggressive. So it sees the metrics now, that how much CPU and RAM is available now in whichever hypervisor, and then vMotion now the machine. So it's all about now, real-time, right? So, but what about predictive? So it says that if you have VMware's really complicated monitoring application server called vRealize operations. This is like even the installation takes like 1.5 hour or 1 hour, right? And it's but it's a one-stop monitoring application. vRealize operations is a very big. It proactively monitors not only VMware environment but also Azure environment, AWS environment, Google Cloud environment, Windows environment, Linux environments. It pretty much monitors every environment, but and it is created from by VMware. So vRealize operations manager. So it says that if you enable the monitoring from this vRealize operation server, if you enable the monitoring from this, and then it sends you some information from which you can predict that this host is about to have very bad performance, right? So then it will vMotion your machines proactively, right? So just like proactive HA, there's a predictive DRS. So the question could come for, what is the difference between predictive DRS and proactive HA? Well, if it's a question answer thing that I put, normally I put true false. Okay guys, so here yeah, it's good. Let's go ahead and enable that. Enable predictive DRS. Let's go ahead and enable that. Enable predictive DRS, and then you can also see virtual machine automation. Enable individual virtual machine automation level. So this means, and it is already enabled. So what does that mean? It means that maybe some of the machines you don't want HA and DRS to provide any high availability and vMotion capabilities there. Suppose some machines you don't want HA and DRS to handle. So you can override that on the machine level. That this machine number 1, machine number 32, machine number 76, these 3 machines, I don't want DRS and HA to do anything about those machines. Wherever they are, DRS, do not transfer that, thank you very much. Do not vMotion that. HA, do not restart them if those machines are on a host and the host crashes. HA, don't bother. So you can actually go to a virtual machine and override those settings of HA and DRS, and you can do that. So I'm going to show you where exactly that option is. In fact, if I just drag it a little on the right side left, then this area where we went for DRS and high availability, right? If you go at the bottom of it, then there's an override option there as well that we're gonna visit now after this. So, but you can override per virtual machine that, hey, I don't want this virtual machine to be under. Yes, exactly. As Ebola says, non-critical machines. So exactly, yeah, you're right. Non-critical machines, we can just put that, hey, don't bother DRS with these few machines. They are non-critical. Okay, guys. So here we can just keep it enabled, but you can override on the machine level. And then there is additional options, VM distribution. So that's another interesting one. For availability, distribute a more even number of virtual machines across hosts. So that's a good one. Remember that I was actually putting all the machines on one host to make it imbalanced. Suppose there's a situation where the DRS is analyzing, and one of the hosts, suppose it's a new host, and you got 1 terabyte RAM, 32 core processor. That's huge, right? So other hosts are old, and So DRS says that, hey, I have moved from 20 machines from different hosts to that one host already, and still it has so much more RAM available, so much more CPU available, right? Because it's a new host, right? And it has still more CPU and RAM available. So DRS can migrate even more machines there. But what's the problem with this scenario? The problem is, if that host goes down, no matter how big RAM is and how big CPU is, if that host goes down, then all the machines are affected and HA kicks in, it restarts the machine. Yes, we know that they're going to be back again, but there is that downtime there, right? Or some of the machines may have fault tolerance available, so they will be okay, but others which do not have fault tolerance will be down, right? So it's just, this option is just saying that, hey DRS, I know that you're going to move all the machines from low performing host to a high performing host, but don't just collect all the machines in one host. Even though the RAM and CPU is guaranteed to be a lot, still distribute them equally among other hosts, right? So if you want to put that option, suppose the other hosts are actually bad, old and then very new, so then this option is not good, because just to keep it even number, so it might put some critical machines on low performing host as well, right? Suppose you got more of those and less of newer ones, so that's not a very good idea. So suppose you have kind of new host and newer hosts. So if it's then it's good to have this option enabled, right? So it's up to you. We understand what it means and then enable it. So I just enabled it for no particular reason. In our environment, it doesn't matter. So memory metric for load balancing. Load balance based on consumed memory of virtual machines other than active memory. This setting is only recommended for clusters where host memory is not overcommitted. So normally we do overcommitment as well, that you got actual physical memory as 64 GB, but because virtual machines are always asking during peak times in offices, in data centers, peak time, they are just asking for more and more CPU, more and more memory. So if overcommitment, sometimes administrators do overcommit, which means that the virtual machine actually needs a bit more memory. So suppose the physical host has 64 GB here, physical memory, right? While you provide here like maybe 70 GB, 75 GB, and you know that machine might not actually reach that memory, but you're just overcommitting the memory that okay, this is a critical one and I'm temporarily giving it, suppose 65 to 70 only, right? So just a little more overcommitment, from 64 to actually 70, right? So 6 GB more. But sometimes this is done because the virtual machine memory is going up. It's very less left there, so you can overcommit as well, and still it kind of survives that. At least the virtual machine is not frozen, or it performs bad, but it does not freeze, right? So if you just want to achieve that, so if you're not doing overcommitment, then you can do what? You can do this, load balance based on consumed memory. So consumed is virtual machine has been given a memory, and then what virtual machine has been consuming memory. So that's the thing, that suppose you've gave the memory to this as 32 GB, but actual consumption is just 16 GB. It's not going more than that, although you've given this much memory, but its actual consumption is 16 GB. So it's just saying that if you consume, load balance you based on consumed memory of virtual machine. So if it is consuming 16 GB and it needs more, and this host cannot provide more, so then balance it by moving it to some other host. So consumed memory and given memory are different, and DRS can decide on that as well. Oh, you have consumed very less memory. Okay, I don't need to actually move you. Oh, you have consumed a lot of memory. Okay, let me move you, right? So that's the decision that DRS can take. And that's the same for CPU as well, that overcommitment ratio. So control CPU overcommitment in the cluster. Don't let anyone overcommit. So machine needs more and more and more and more, then you can put that, hey, okay, you can go 1% more overcommitment, and you can go 10% more overcommitment, which is a bad idea. But you want to keep the show running even if it's slow and there is no other host to offer memory, so then you can go for that too. But keeping it at 0 and not configured is a bit better when you have bad hardware there or slow performing hardware. So that's what these two options are for: memory and CPU overcommitment. So then there is power management here. Power management is very interesting. It saves your hydro bill. Power management saves your hydro bill. Really? Are you kidding me? So let me just put that other picture as well. It's quite messy now, but it has a lot of details here. Okay, so it had gone to DRS actually, and okay, here. Okay, one day, Monday or Sunday, it's gonna copy. Okay, so what we can do is we can go for DPM. What is the purpose of that? DPM actually lets you save hydro bill. What does that mean? Your electricity bill of the company is saved by DPM, power management, or distributed power management. So how does that happen? If you are suppose you have 100 hypervisors here, 100 hosts here, right? And those 100 hosts are actually during daytime they're busy, but nighttime obviously nobody's connected or very less people are connected, so they're just consuming electricity, right? So if you enable the DPM, what it does is that it's going to analyze automatically that, okay, if I put 25 of the hosts virtual machines to the rest of the 75 hosts here, right? 25 hosts virtual machine, if I just migrate, because they're all not busy and enough CPU and RAM is available on the 75 host, that I can just move the virtual machines of the rest of the 25 hosts and distribute them among the 75 hosts, and then I can shut down remotely. I can send the command and shut down these 25 hosts. So at least some of the hydro bill or electricity will be saved, right? So what happens with that is that okay, every night the hosts are being shut down. Some of the hosts are being shut down after analyzing that, okay, I can distribute the machines for these hosts to the rest of the hosts which are not using enough CPU and memory, and then I can shut down these hosts, saving the electricity. In the morning, when it analyzes that, okay, on those machines which were distributed among 75 hosts, there are so many users now coming in the morning. Oh, now I need back those 25 hosts. So it's remotely send the commands to these hosts to start now with Wake on LAN. Maybe you've heard about that, Wake on LAN, right? IPMI, ILO. So these are ILOs with HP that you can remotely connect to the server's rack and then go for powering on the hosts. I think it's IPM or HP. I think. So shut down. It remotely shuts down the host at night and powers on the host in the morning, and then migrate back all the machines. The only problem with this scenario is that if the host doesn't start, so some of you may have that experience of when you are patching the host on the weekends, on the second weekend of every month in some company, and there are some hosts in other branches, and you remotely first you patch them and then you restart them. So sometimes one host just doesn't start. That's it. It was running 24/7 for permanently it was running, and then when you restart, so something went bad and it's not starting. So you have to make a run for that at that time. So if your hosts are starting from remote Wake on LAN command, you should test that first and then enable the power management option. right? And then you can just check that turning off, and then manual is just giving suggestions, and then automatic is it's going to simply go for automatic shutdown and automatic start of the hosts to save electricity or hydro bill. So that's the main purpose of shutting down distributed power management, right? So I'm just gonna take a screenshot of that. Oh man, last screenshot it didn't go. Okay, this one is good. Okay. Oh, it did go actually. Okay. So if we go back here, so we don't have to really enable that, but we understand the option, and many administrators would not use that, but some administrators do use that when they have the pressure from the boss that, hey, too much electricity is being consumed. So do you have any kind of technology that can save the electricity? So you should get written approval that there's a possibility of host not starting, so that could disrupt our morning work pressure. So with that in mind, yes, you can enable that option. So then there is advanced option, and we talked about the advanced option already, that it is there to change the defaults, and you can go to the knowledge base of VMware and grab that script, and maybe you can make this whole area grayed out, or just change some of the default functionality of the DRS with the advanced options. So okay guys, so this is DRS, and remember that we did not enable DPM, and we should not enable any other option that actually does disrupt our next labs. So let me just check here that whatever else we can enable would disrupt. So guys, we can uncheck this option for availability, distribute a more even number of virtual machines across hosts. Although it seems harmless, but it's gonna make sure that some machines are on the other host and some machines are on this host. So which does not look like it may give a problem, but just to avoid surprises, I'm just unchecking that. So go ahead and uncheck that. Enable individual virtual machine automation levels. Okay, that's okay. And in fact, I'm about to show you now where can you go and override on per virtual machine basis that, hey, this virtual machine should not be under DRS, that should not be under vSphere availability. So enabling this option is okay. Predictive DRS is also okay, and make sure that it is on fully automated and aggressive. So this means that our environment is guaranteed to be balanced, or it will keep on doing that in the background. So let's go ahead and press O and K. So we were talking about override options, right? So if you go further down here, see this? Top to bottom. Anthony says, can you see DRS setting? Anthony, are you on DRS? So Tor cluster vSphere DRS, edit. Okay, so yeah, if I expand the DRS, so it is on fully automated and aggressive, and then the next two options after fully automated aggressive, enable predictive DRS and enable individual virtual machine automation. These two are selected. That's all. No other option is selected. Okay, hopefully we've done that. So enable predictive DRS and aggressive. These are the two changes you can make. And power management is off, yes. Okay guys, so let's press OK here. Okay guys, so here what we need to check now is, you can see that you're on Tor cluster, you're on configure, and you're on vSphere DRS. Tor cluster, configure, vSphere DRS, right? So if you go down here, so you can see this option, VM overrides, right? So this VM overrides is that option where you can override the cluster-wide configurations, and that you don't want any one specific VM or 2 or 3 VMs to have those configurations implemented. So let's go to VM overrides and let's click the add button here. Let's click the add button here. Once we click the add button, and it opens today, I guess, maybe. Really? I'll click again. Okay. So you can see this page here, and so you can just click the green plus sign here, Z1. So if you click the green plus sign here and just select any one machine, right? So suppose we go for VM03 or 2 or 1, whichever, doesn't matter. So I'm selecting 3. Suppose that's one machine on which you don't want cluster settings to be implemented, right? So this machine can be selected, and then you can just go for automation level disabled, right? And VM restart priority disabled or lowest, right? Suppose that's what you want to do. I'm just giving an example here. So whatever changes you want to make, you can just select those and disable. Or so for this machine, you can actually make different changes just for one machine, and the rest of the, suppose you have thousands of machines there, and for a very few machines you're actually making some other changes there, right? So you can make it on virtual machine level as well, right? So cluster settings, or you can disable that, or VM monitoring, or disable that. So DRS, HA, it all, the list goes down there. So I just made changes on the first two here, disabled and lowest, and all others are the same, but we just get the point here that this is how we can per machine level we can just change the settings as well. So that would be our screenshot number 6. So take a screenshot here, VM overrides, screenshot number 6, VM overrides. Okay, so Madhuri shows that. Madhuri, did you select the machine? Go ahead and select the machine itself and then try. Otherwise, this screenshot is okay as well. If you can select the machine and then try on the right side, they might all appear. If they should not be grayed out then. But if that also doesn't work, then this screenshot is also okay. Okay, so but the page is this VM overrides. So screenshot number 6 would be VM overrides. Okay, not happening, then this screenshot is okay. So I'll just put that screenshot 6. VM overrides. Override is written here as well. Screenshot number 6, VM overrides. All right. So VM overrides, and then but as okay. Well, actually, maybe it's too late, but we can also press cancel. But okay, since I press OK, and maybe some of you may have pressed OK. So this machine, we have done an override on this machine specifically, right? So what we can do is we can select this machine now and delete it. So it's not deleting the machine, it's just removing the machine from override, right? So we just don't want any surprises. Sometimes in the lab we need some more machines and they are implemented with some other policies. So go ahead and select the machine and just click the delete button here. So in order to just not include the machine, right? So just delete the button here, and yes. So the override will not happen on this machine. We don't want override to be happening in our environment on any machine. Alright guys, so this is VM override, but then there is, with DRS, when you implement, there is another precaution that you have to take. and that precaution is called affinity rules. So the affinity rules are very interesting. So I'll just put those affinity rules right after DRS instead of FT and EVC. So affinity rules are that the two machines. So affinity rules, first of all, what are the names of the rules? Affinity rules name is that VM to VM affinity, and the next rule name is, then I'm going to explain that too, VM to VM non affinity. What does that mean? And VM to host affinity, and VM to host non-affinity. So what do these rules do, and why they are so important with DRS? When you implement DRS, you have to make sure you understand these rules. VM to VM affinity would be that if DRS is about to vmotion a VM, then it has to vmotion the other VM which is bound with this VM in this rule, VM to VM affinity. Now in English, I'm going to explain that too. So what it means is, in the diagrams we get to understand better. Okay. So there are many hosts here, and those hosts are of whatever configuration, E6i host 2, and what happens is the VM to VM affinity means that if you have two machines here, so VM to VM affinity means that two machines must stay together. So that would be the proper wording. It means the two VMs must stay together. So when I'm writing that, so obviously the opposite of that would be they must not stay together, right? So VM to VM non-affinity, actually it's not non, it's anti-affinity. The terminology would be anti-affinity. Anti, it's not non. So VM to VM anti-affinity would mean that the two VMs, these two, which these you will have to select that. We're gonna do that rule now. So these two VMs must not stay together. Must not stay together in case of vmotion, right? So again, let me just go back and then explain that. So these two VMs must stay together. That is VM to VM affinity. So it means that if the vmotion DRS thinks that there is less RAM CPU here, and there is more RAM and CPU here on this host, so it's about to decide to move this VM to this host. So then it will check that, oh, there's a VM to VM affinity rule actually connected to these two machines. So as soon as so it will have to analyze that if I move these two machines together, because it has to, if it has to move any one, then it has to move the other one as well, because the VM to VM affinity rule says so, right? So it will have to move these two to wherever it is seeing it suitable to move the virtual machine. So VM to VM affinity means the two machines stay together no matter what happens, right? So that's VM to VM affinity. So why would you want to do that, or what makes this rule important? Suppose you have load balancing going on, and the two DNS servers or the two web servers need to be together, so the service should be consistent. So in that case, in these scenarios, two machines should be together. So VMs must stick together, right? Then we go for the other rule. VM to VM non-affinity, VM to VM non anti-affinity, anti-affinity. So that would be VMs must not stick together. Must not stick together. So in what case would you want that? Anyone can tell me actually in what scenario, what kind of VMs would you not want together? So these VMs are separate. Suppose the DRS says that, hey, this host has actually much more CPU and RAM, and this host has very less RAM. So may I just migrate this VM to this one? Oh, there's the anti-affinity rule. Okay. So DRS thinks that I cannot actually migrate this virtual machine to this particular host because these two specific VMs have the VM to VM anti-affinity rule, which means they cannot be on the same host together. Must not. Okay, so Anthony says master slave. Okay, like server and client, you can say. But anyone else know that what kind of machines must not stay together? There's another thing, another way we just talked about 1 or 2 hours ago. If they are in that configuration, they must not stay together. What is that configuration? So it is heavy database machines. Okay, yes, heavy database machine. Amarjeet says if they are both database machines and they together consume a lot of CPU and RAM, so they should stay away apart from each other in order to not take over all the resource CPU and RAM of host. Okay, and then there is Firoz says backup VMs. Backup VMs should not stay together. Maybe DB servers, yes, they're heavy. And then Shubin says two different machines that consumes a lot of resources, yes. If they consume a lot of resources, they should not stay together. And then there is that what we discussed, so active passive, right? If one machine is in active machine and the other one is passive, that is the fault tolerance configuration, right? So yes, if they consume a lot of resources, then it should not be together. That's one reason. Other is if they're active passive, so you should, as soon as you put them on fault tolerance configuration, which is an upcoming lab, so you should put them both on anti-affinity as well. This means that the active machine cannot be, if it sees, DRS sees that, oh, there's much more CPU and RAM only here in this hypervisor host and not others, so let me just move it here. So if you did not define for these two particular machines anti-affinity rule, so it will actually migrate it here, and the purpose of having active passive configuration will be lost as they're both on the same host. If this host goes down, obviously both are going to be restarted, so no failover will occur, obviously, right? So that's why active passive, and then the machines have V resources that one host cannot provide. So in that case also you need to put those all machines, maybe there are 3 or 4 machines, you can put all those machines in anti-affinity. They cannot all be gathered up into the same host, because DNS working automatically is a blessing, right? But that blessing can become horror if you did not configure any of the anti-affinity rules there. So it will just do its job. DRS is meant to just, oh, more CPU and RAM, okay, let's put this one here, let's put that one here. So it could actually misconfigure many of your configurations as well. Okay, so that's why these rules are mucho importante, very, very important, right? So then there is VM to host affinity and VM to host anti-affinity. So VM to host affinity would be what? VM must stick to this host. Okay, what would be the scenario where you would put VM to host affinity? What kind of VM would you put this under this rule? That VM must stick to this host. So DRS, please do not move this virtual machine from this particular host. Thank you very much. So which type of VM would you want to do that?
Sir, like you explained in earlier class, like there is a CPU affinity for SQL Server, which consumes a lot of resources, and that's a big machine. So that is one example that you give, and this could be leading to the same thing, like VM to host affinity.
Yeah, exactly. So one VM would require the local resources. The application on one VM would require that those local resources. So it could be GPU as well, graphical processing unit. And suppose you have a cryptocurrency based application or blockchain based application that really requires a graphical processing unit. So in that case, you would not want DRS fully aggressive and automatic to migrate this machine away from this host. Suppose other hosts do not have the GPU service available, or the graphics adapter in the CPU as well as in the graphics adapter itself, then you would not want it to move. Or the CPU it's is a very maybe 32 core CPU is there, and this is a database, Hadoop database maybe, or some other big database with a lot of data. So you don't want it to be moved. So VM to host affinity would be a very good option, and you have to be very careful when you're putting that DRS. Obviously, then you have to decide that which machines are doing what and what kind of host they need, where they should not be together. So then you have to really have a good analysis of your environment before you kick in that DRS automatic and fully aggressive, right? So then the final one would be the VM to host anti-affinity. Any VM to host anti-affinity. Any example of that? You don't want the VM to be sticking to that particular host. That would be easy. What example of that? VM must not stick to this host. Pretty much the opposite of what we set out above. So that would be that the VM, wherever it is, and maybe it has, suppose it's a database SQL server, right? So, and there is another host that, or even if it's GPU, and all other hosts have GPU, but that one host does not have a GPU processor and adapter there with enough RAM. So it doesn't have that, but all others have it, right? So this means that it can move to every other host, but not to that host, because that one doesn't have the graphical processing unit. So whatever hardware does not provide for a machine that requires some of the hardware features, then you would go for anti-affinity from VM to host anti-affinity as well. So that's now hopefully it's pretty straightforward and understandable that what we're talking about. So we can just go ahead and try to go back to our environment. And how do we configure that all? So there's that VM to host groups are there, and then there's VM to host rules are there. So first, these two are there for affinity rules, right? So first of all, we can just go for groups. That is used when you have a lot of hosts there. We don't have a lot of hosts there, but I'm going to show you that where do we use that. So first we can create groups here. Otherwise we can go straight to rules if we don't need groups. But what are groups anyway? So let's click that add here in the VM/host groups in Tor cluster, and then configure, and at the bottom of this. So click add here, and so we can just go for VM group, suppose. So there are two types here, VM group and host group, right? So they say that if you could have suppose it's sales dash VM dash group. So there are some sales virtual machines that are grouped together, and you can put them in VM to host affinity or anti-affinity. That's these sales machine should not be migrated to this group of hosts. So whatever the scenario is, right? And whatever the reason is. So sales VM group, and then VM group is selected, and then we can click add here. Once we click add here, so yeah, it's just any machine. So okay, I'm just adding one, although it's a group. So suppose we have added 5, 4, 6, or 10, 20, 30 machines, but just add one, because for the next ones we need some machines as well. So I'm just gonna add one, pretending that there are lots of machines here. and press OK. We're just making groups now, just to later in the rules we will understand that what's the use of these groups. So I'm just going to click add here again, because there's the other category of host groups. So suppose it's Toronto dash branch dash hosts, and maybe in Toronto branch you have like 10-20 hosts there, and New York branch you have 20-30 hosts there. That's a big environment, suppose. So we can select the host group here, and once you select the host group, whatever name you give here, back one step, sir. Okay, so I'm getting only 6A1 and E6A1 and O2 servers only. In okay, Kavita says that. So yeah, Paul, first you asked, so where should I start, Paul? Okay, VM host group. You only see 6I1, 6I2? Yeah, actually, Kavita, we're supposed to see only hypervisors, and we have only 2 hypervisors. So what you're seeing is correct. This is what we're gonna see as well. But I'm just back here. Paul is asking one step back. So how many steps back? VM group. So click the add button here, and if the VM group is there, just give a name, some name, sales, right? And then add in the VM group, and just add one machine, any one machine, and OK. Just give any name, keep the VM group selected, and just add any one machine, and OK, right? So just add one machine and then press OK. And then we click again add. Then we click again add. And then we go for, suppose it's Toronto branch hosts, or whatever, just put host there. You know, we're just trying to understand there. So Toronto branch host or hosts, and then change the host group. Now, when you change the host group and put the name, then click the add button, and you will see just the 2 hosts. Why? Because we have only 2 hosts here, right? 2 hypervisors. So it's only going to line up the hypervisors. It's not going to line up the Windows machines. So the 2 host hypervisors are only E6A1 and 2. So we can just select any one. Just select E6A1. I'm going to show why we're doing that, right? Right after what we're done here. Once we're done here, so just select E6A1 here and press OK. So in the VM group we selected one machine, and in the host group we selected one host, right? So we're pretending that there are multiple hosts, and we're pretending that those are multiple machines there. So I'm just going to press OK here, and the 2 groups are created with one host, one VM, right? If you click that, it's going to show down here as well what you selected, and if you click up there. So let's go to the rules side, because this is just, you know, creating groups, nothing much here. You give a name and you add a host, or you give a name and you add a machine, right? So let's go down to VM host rules. And in the VM host rules, that's where the action is, right? So let's go to VM host rules and then click add button. Let's go to the VM host rules and click add button. So once we click the add button, now you can see this. The 4 categories that we just talked about. So keep virtual machines together, separate virtual machines to hosts, virtual machines to virtual machines. So, well, we didn't talk about virtual machines to virtual machines, but I'm going to explain that. But the first one is keep virtual machines together, right? So this is selected already, right? So what we can do is that we can just put there, suppose virtual machine together is load balance dash VMs. Suppose that's the situation. Now remember that right now when you put keep virtual machines together, it is not asking about groups that we created just now in the other area, right, in the other section. This is directly asking virtual machines. It is not asking for groups. But when we go to the third option, then you're going to see that why we create the groups there, right? The first, second option is only talking about virtual machines, whatever virtual machines you have. So keep two virtual machines together, which ones? If you select that and you put some name there, let's click the add button. So whatever number of machines you select here, suppose I'm just pretending these two machines must be together. So I'm just going to select the machines that should be together on one host, or wherever they are migrated, they have to be together on that host, right? So the two VMs are selected, whatever two, we're just pretending whichever two, just select any two and press OK. So that's how we can just add, keep virtual machines together. You just add the machines, that's all, right? Just trying to show how easy it is, and press OK. So these two machines have been, and we named it according to whatever purpose we're pretending it to have. So that's one rule created, and we randomly selected two machines. Then let's go ahead and go again to add again, because we want to go for the other rule now, which is separate virtual machines, right? So when you go for DRS fully automated and fully aggressive, then, well, actually before that, come here and do this, and then enable that rule. So not after enabling the fully automated and aggressive, right? So separate virtual machines, we can say active passive. Suppose there's another configuration, then create another rule. Suppose there's another set of machines which should not be together, and actually those are database machines, right? Machines with SQL Server inside. So then you can make another rule and call it database VMs must not stay together. You can just actually put the name of the rule like that, and then keep on adding those database machines. These better not be together. You have more options there when you have more hypervisors there. Okay, so separate virtual machines and active passive VMs, that's the reason we're pretending. And then click add. And yeah, the other two. Now I have just left with two other. We're pretending, just go random on, select any two and press OK. So that's how easy it is, but easy but critical, that you know which machines must stay together and which machines must not stay together. So that's up to you, how knowledgeable you are, how much cautions you have taken. Then let's go for the third rule to understand what is that and explore that rule as well. Let's go back again, and this time you can see that there's a third rule is virtual machines to hosts, right? So if you select the virtual machines to hosts here, you can see there's a virtual machine migration went on. Just now migration was happening. Wow, seriously. Oh. Okay, so the virtual machine to host, as soon as you select that, then you see the VM group and the host group. Remember that we created a VM group and the host group? Now here you can use that. So we can just type here VM to host Affinity, but we can just create one rule, but you can create another rule, VM to host anti-affinity, and then just put that. But we're just typing VM to host Affinity and virtual machine to host. So here, suppose you have created multiple groups here. Oh, so Paul, if you don't see that group, this means you didn't create that. When I told you that how to create that, maybe you did not follow correctly. So I'm going to cancel out from here. Paul, go back here, VM and groups. So please do pay attention now. So VM and host, and please click the add button in the VM host groups. Add, right? And select VM group. And then whatever we selected there, sales. Okay, sales VMs, right? Sales VMs and VM group. Hopefully you're following now. So add, and then just select one VM on the top, right? And then press OK. I press cancel because I had already created that. I think you followed me literally there, and you press cancel as well. So I thought you would be pressing OK there, and I didn't because I already have it. So press OK like this, and then press OK here, right? So because I have it already, so I'm not pressing OK now as well. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna cancel this and then go back here, VM host rules, and then click add. Okay, so we were on the third one here, and in the third one you can see here what were we typing here? I think that was, yeah, VM-2 dash host Affinity. Okay, Affinity. So suppose it's the Affinity one. So how do we, so sales VM group is there. Suppose you have a lot of VM groups selected there, so you can keep on creating rules about those groups. We just have one group created here just to know the usage of that, right? So there is sales VM group and Toronto branch host. This is the host group. We created both and both are showing up, right? So now you have four options here. Must run hosts in group, should run host in group, must not run host in group, and should not run host in group. So guys, can you tell me the difference between must and should? Other than the spelling difference, what else is the difference between must and should?
Must is compulsory and should would be optional.
Exactly. So yeah, as you said, so must is compulsory and should is optional. So must, suppose we go for well, option should be should, but you can go for must run as well. But the difference would be that whether it is available or not, we don't care, you must do it, right? So I can explain that better in should, that suppose VM to host affinity is stick that VM to this host, should run on host. But suppose it's not possible to run on this host, then okay, just move it to the other host in that case. So there's option there. And must is no way, if even if you can't keep this machine here because of very low performance, very bad performance, you have to move it. Still don't move it, just keep it there. We don't care about performance, whether it's going down or not, we don't just care, just keep it here, stick to this. So VM2's affinity would be must run on host group, so it will only run on this host group. And should, if you see that it's very bad performance, just move it in that case only. So you would not do that for clean critical host, right? But you would do that for non-critical machines. That okay, should is for non-critical, but must, you just make sure that you're on top of that. And if it had to decide that its performance is really bad and it really need to move it, but you put it on must, so that's not good. Maybe critical machine can be moved to another host, and some of the functionality is not there, but the machine is up, customers are connected. Although the functionality is not there, still the purpose is lost for that machine. So anyway, it's up to you how you decide that. So if you go for must run or should run, so you can go for host affinity, or if you go for must not run, so you can just put here anti affinity, right? Just change the name and choose the not, instead of doing it. And if you're going for affinity, then choose run on it in that case. So that is how the third one is done. So we just wanted to explore all the rules there and why they're there and when should we use that, right? So whatever is selected here is okay, the default one, and press O and K, right? And then we go for add for the fourth rule here as well, and let's click that add here. What's the fourth rule here? It's virtual machine to virtual machine. If you select that, first of all, go ahead and select that, right? What do you see there? You see there, if there is first group of machine, obviously we don't have a second group, we didn't create that second group, that's why it's not showing there, but it's okay. But it says first restart VMs in this group, then restart VMs in this group. So you get the idea right away that it's a restart priority, right? Restart priority. So you can put that name, but you can just put more explanation here. Maybe sales machine restart priority, right? Or marketing machines, first sales, then marketing. Okay, so it's first domain controller, then the client machines. So you can just put any of those names and add those groups of, but this is all about virtual to machine just means which group to start first. It has to be a group, and which group to restart after that. So this is just a restart priority, right? So since we don't have another group, so we can just cancel out from here, right? We can cancel out from here if we don't have the other group, or otherwise you can just go back and create another group and then okay, up to you. But we understand what it does, right? So let's go for screenshot here. So this is one. So this is the VM affinity rules. So screenshot number 7 is VM affinity rules. So I'll just take a screenshot here. So that would be the 3 rules that you've created, and screenshot number 7 is VM affinity rules. Screenshot 7 VM affinity rules. Yay! Oh, I didn't take a screenshot. Seriously. Okay. I mean, like, not paste it there. So VM affinity rules. Okay, there you go. So screenshot number 7 is VM affinity rules, and so that's VM affinity rules. But can you see that? Well, yeah. So we create the VM affinity rules, right? Yes. Okay. So there's one more thing here, and that is. So that's the rules, right? So we understand how to configure them, and that's how they're supposed to work. There's another thing right above that groups is EVC, Enhanced Vmotion Compatibility. So hopefully we've all taken the screenshot. This is a very small one. So Enhanced Vmotion Compatibility, EVC, what is that? So hopefully everyone's there. Enhanced. So if you click that, VMware EVC, right? Enhanced Vmotion Compatibility. The purpose of EVC is, so if we go to the diagram here, the main purpose here is, so your virtual machines will be vmotioning from one host to another, second host to the third one, third host to the fourth one, fourth to the fifth one. Sir, do we need to disable DRS first before these rules were created? Yeah, so Sabina is asking that do we need to disable now? Before we create the DRS, these rules should be created. But suppose your boss or you thought that, oh, I forgot to create the affinity rules. So suppose that happens. So just, yes, you're right, disable the DRS, then do that. But we saw that technically you can just create the rules, and whenever they are created, DRS will start following them. But before that, whatever DRS has already done, just see what it has done. If the active passive machines are actually on the same, then move them back. Obviously, then disable the DRS and move the machines away from each other, so you could put the rules on DRS, then turn on the DRS. So yes, you're right, disable the DRS. Okay. With the exclamation will do. Okay, yeah, sure. So screenshot with exclamation. Exactly. I said exactly, but I had no idea what you mean by that. Okay. So, but yes, you're right. So again, I said that. So, exclamation. Yes. Alright, guys. So what I was talking about here was EV. Amarjeet, you hurt my feelings now. That is -10 already, temperature, right? So, no temperature, man. It's okay. It's not okay. No, temperature. Oh, I mean, like, yeah. So, but no, I'm actually more boiled up in my head, and I want a break. But this is a very small one, so I thought, hey, more topic we cover. Guys, how many days we have left? 13, 14, 15. That's it. 3. That's it, right? So your final exam is coming, so I need to cover as much topics as possible, and I want to just make your life miserable the most I could, right? Oh, just kidding. So yeah. Oh, Madhuri says just 3 days. So don't worry, Madhuri. We're gonna extend it to 7 or 8 days. Yeah. So we're gonna keep on learning until our grandkids are in the university. We're gonna be like, now VMware. Okay. Anyway, say. Okay. So here, let's carry on with the very small topic here, and that is EVC. Yay! Oh, what is EVC? So EVC is enhanced vMotion compatibility. So let's understand that enhanced vMotion compatibility, right? So what that does is, now in English, let's talk about it. It fools the vMotion service into thinking that all the processors are compatible with each other. So suppose you have an older hypervisor and you have a comparatively newer hypervisor. Now the older hypervisor is Intel processor. Suppose it's an Intel processor, right? So Intel processor has some a bit older feature, and the new one has a bit newer feature. In this case as well, what happens is that your VM might not migrate. So when you turn on the EVC, what happens is EVC, right? So what happens is EVC tells the vMotion service, hey vMotion service, it's okay. It hides the incompatibilities of the two processors and tell the vMotion service it's okay, you can vMotion. Both hypervisors processors are exactly the same features. Don't worry. Trust me, I'm EVC. I'm here for exactly that purpose, to fool you. vMotion service, thank you very much. Okay, anyway. So the thing is that EVC hides incompatibilities of the processors and for the purpose of vMotion. Otherwise, vMotion will not happen if the processors are having incompatible features. Suppose it's Intel and the other is Intel, that's not enough. It has to have compatible features with each other. So maybe the basic architecture is same and some features are not there in the other hypervisor as compared to the newer one. So if there's a more feature difference, then vMotion will not happen. So EVC covers that gap. Okay, so if we go back here, that it's gonna get interesting now because your laptop processors are going to be exposed now. They're about to be exposed. Why? Because it's going to test and check that which Intel family your laptop processor belongs to, right? So if you're on EVC, go ahead and click edit, right? Go ahead and click edit, and you can see the two vendors there of the processors who build or make processors on planet Earth, AMD and Intel. Anyone here who has AMD processor should select that. But first of all, let's just select all AMD. My processor is not AMD, and majority of you will not have AMD. But it shows you AMD Opteron Generation 1, Generation 2, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 3, no 3D now, and Gen 3 with 3D now, and Generation 4, and then there is that Pile driver generation, and then there is Steamroller generation. So generation just means that maybe it's a set of processor was released in 2018, then with slight changes and moderation 2019 and a next version of processor was released, and then 2020 also next version was released with slight more changes, right? So that could be one generation, right? Okay, Bikram has actually AMD, so that's good. So this is generation. So your this EVC is for the whole cluster, right? Suppose you have 64 hypervisors in your cluster. It will check if all the hypervisors belong to at least the same family, if not the exact same processor, right? And it's kind of not possible because every year or every 2 years companies purchase processor new hypervisors, physical servers, right? So that's why it could be different. So Olufemi says recent AMD is better than Intel and cheaper. Ah, really? Okay. So, okay, guys. So those who have Intel, go ahead and click Intel, and one of the Intel family your laptop processor should belong to, but it's not necessary. You might not find any family of processor your processor belonging to, right? So those who are in AMD, go ahead and select one. If you select the AMD here, you should not see an error here. It should be not red here in compatibility. It should be green if it detects your processor. For some laptops, it might not detect processor. I'm going to go to Intel now, and first is the MEROM generation, then Penryn generation, then NeHaLem, then Westmere, then Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell, Broadwell. So I'm gonna start from MEROM and select that, and it gives me compatibility error. Nope. So if I go for Penryn, nope. And NeHaLem, it's still red. Okay. One more thing, guys. Your laptops are not meant for production environments. My and your laptops, our laptops are not meant for. So this is for production environment processors. Some of those might be compatible still here as well, and few of those might not. You might not find any of those for your processor. So in that case, just mine is Sandy Bridge. Woohoo! Yay! Okay. So Shabaddin says okay. Sabina says, sir, no matter what family I select, it shows well. No way! Really? That never happened before. Okay, so that's cool. So I have Ice Lake not there. Oh, okay. Olufemi says. Shibana says, let me show. No, like every Intel family is validated. Like, oh, Madhuri also says maybe then you have a software or that processor has something that you know it's masking EVC into thinking, oh yes, I am from that family. Oh yes, I am from that family as well. Oh yeah, especially that family. Yeah, I belong to all those families. Rich guy. Okay, so me too. Oh, okay. So then latest processors are not. Oh, Jagun says none of them. So some have every option available, some have none. Ah, okay. So mine is just Sandy Bridge. So guys, if you have none of the option available, cancel out. And those who have every processor, every family is validated, then just select whichever you want. AMD none. Okay, Yongton also says none. So this means that no comparative to all Arthi says. Okay, Sandeep says no. Kavita says none working. Ouch. So guys, what I want to say here is, I was gonna say screenshot, but let's forget the screenshot for this one. And wow, amazing. No, but Shabina, it's which one did you select? MEROM, right? So it's the MEROM. But okay, hosts with following processor types will be permitted to enter the cluster. Yeah, but yours is selected MEROM, right? So, but if you select the other one, other than MEROM, if it's also validating that, then that's good. Anyway, so okay, so if any also says none, and a young already said none. So okay. Oh, okay. Then Shabina has uploaded another picture. Okay, so the next one. Oh, okay. So yeah. Shabina, I trust you. Yeah, sure. It's okay. It's okay. You're connecting now, putting all the pictures. So okay, guys, no screenshot for this one, and that's okay. But we understand the idea behind it. EVC is there for fooling the vMotion into thinking that both processors are having same exact, both hypervisors processors are compatible with each other and have the exact same features, even if they don't have exact same features, right? So EVCs, the purpose of EVC is that. So that's what we need to know. But guys, even if it is validated, just go ahead and cancel, because we need our configuration, all of our configuration to be consistent, right? So let's not, even if you have validated, don't press OK, just go for cancel. I'm gonna work without it throughout the environment. So our every one of our environment should be consistent. Okay, so EVC is disabled. That's good. And let's upload. Yay! Or yay. Okay. So that's it, and just finalize, and that's it for today. Woohoo! Yay! Okay, so yes, just right click and suspend the guest, and right click and suspend the guest. You know, because of the second wave, we can't even have samosa party. So okay, so much for samosa party. And server 2 and server 1 power suspend.
College does not plan to meet up sometime.
They are supposed to give a party and graduation ceremony to you guys, but not sure if they're gonna do it on premises. They might do it online as well.
Sir, virtual party is not possible.
Well, virtual samosas only. Ajibola says, any chances we'll complete all the topics before the end of the program? No, Ajibola, it will not be possible. Topics are a lot. I will be covering then the theory, and I will send you the video for pretty much all, because no, covering the topics is not that big deal. It's the lab of that topic that is the big deal. That's why I'm trying to cover those which will be useful for the exam plus the job. So most critical topics, because there's a very long list of topics there. I can give the video for that for labs coverage, but for concept wise, yes, we will be covering all the topics. We are doing the labs with our own speed, so I wish we were much faster. This is for every course that happens. So, government allowed 50 people gathering, and then Kavita says at least one samosa video. Oh, okay, yeah. So please upload the video ASAP to be able to take the screenshot, since I was stuck for the first 2 hours. Oh, okay, college, sure. So let me just create that upload there. I 5 got this. Oh, 4 got, I mean. Yeah.
Sir, are we having a final exam?
Yes, we will have a final quiz, and that will be as brutal as the that midterm. Or maybe midterm was not brutal, so I'll make sure that you will all be crying for the final one. Just kidding. So, yeah, it will be also on the final week, whichever day you want. So, Ajibala says, is the VCP DCV exam scheduled on VMware's website? Oh, so Ajibala, on the final day, I will be giving a great detail on how to give the exam, and yes, you guys need to be given vouchers as well. So we'll be all doing that. We have to just log into the website, and I'll show you where the vouchers are, and use them before 1 year ends, right? And Kavita says September, yeah. And Affinity says, please, we should have option to review our questions. Review? Hey, it should be brutal, man. You guys should be crying over it. I mean, like, you should be like biting your nails. It should be horrible exam, right? Khalid says, sir, which VMware exam are preparing for? So it's 2v0-012. I'll be sending you that link. It says, oh, great. And if any says, last time we didn't have that option. Yes, if any, I put the exam as we cannot backtrack because already is open book, right? So you can get all the help from anywhere, but we cannot backtrack. So there has to be challenge, right? If it's all easy, then you will all get 100 out of 100 and they will kick me out. Yay! So I don't want that to happen. So the exam we are studying is almost retired. Well, we're gonna go for actually 6.7. Yeah, so I'm gonna send you the questions for 6.7, and all the previous group has also gone for 6.7, and a few have only attempted that and they passed. Okay, Iman says that's true, at least 6.7. Yeah, 6.7. I'm gonna give you all the resources for 6.7, but you will be able to give the exam easily to upload today's screenshot. Okay, I was hoping for that question, so I'll now go. I was just entertaining all the questions here, and all right. Where do we need? Okay, so I'll say 6.5 up to 30 August. Yeah, 30 August. Whoa. So yeah, if you want to prepare, just remind me. I will be sending you the 6.5 and 6.7 document if it is on exam collection, right? Okay. Where am I? Okay. Course material.
Sir, how much is more remaining for VMware to complete?
Within 3 next Saturdays, we need to complete the critical topics. So critical topics will be we will be able to complete those within 3 Saturdays. So few topics left. I just want you to do the labs and for the job, and then rest we can cover. I can send you the lab videos for other classes that I've given in VMware where you want to do more labs. I'll give you the videos for all those.
So I guess that will be better because if we could do the labs and then if you could explain the topics on fast forward mode, and then we'll be able to cover up much more ground over there.
And I'll just do the
I don't know if the class would agree to it or
yeah,
not.
if the class agrees. But for these three next days, Saturdays, Mondays, I'll be covering the most critical labs because we go in depth with explanation of all the options. But yes, overall, the rest I will give the videos. And exam prep material and vouchers. That's the most important thing. Voucher. You need to be officially giving the exam. Please upload week 12 lab. Alright. Yeah, voucher is the most important thing. So guys, you'll be seeing some marks being removed and some marks being added. So don't worry about that at the final exam, after final exam. So you'll be getting what you've done. So don't worry about me moving the marks here and there. Okay, there you go. So, okay guys, upload, yay! Okay. So what is passing criteria in the exam? It's above 50%. We need it as well, the voucher. Yes, so voucher, definitely, hopefully everyone gets the voucher. So I'll be showing that. We just need to log into the official VMware portal, and then you have to go to your orders, and there you should be seeing your voucher. So everyone must get that voucher and must give the exam ASAP. Let's see who breaks the bubble. Okay, and stopping the video.